the dark woods off Florida's highways. It was down dirt roads like this that 7 men met the madness of one angry woman. Lee Wuornos murdered them, robbed them, and then drove home in their cars.
Those men were shot, just shot in self-defense, boom, boom, boom. You know, they weren't cut up, they weren't sliced up, no OJ jazz, you know. And he said, I did the most horrendous crime in the whole wide world.
Not true?
I guess not. All they were was shot and left. If it was a horrendous crime, why didn't I shoot them between the eyes, cut their penis off, stick it in their mouth, you know, do all kinds of gross stuff? All they were was shot and left, you know?
She's been called the damsel of death and the hooker from hell. But embellishment aside, the story of history's first female serial killer is macabre enough, even without its supporting cast of characters.
Oh, 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 yes, I'm a public defender.
First, there's Lee Wuornos' lawyer. She's given him the job of getting her to the electric chair.
If you want to plead out, that's what I'm all about. Just sign this no contest plea.
Then there's the serial killer's new mother. She first met Lee after her arrest and then legally adopted her.
Sheba. You know, we believe in the Holy Spirit, and so we feel it was him prompting us that this person really needed help, and she had nobody, and just reach out to her. So we did.
I met her in a bar.
And there's Lee's gay lover, who betrayed her to the police.
We were sitting on the floor watching TV, and she just come out and said, I have something to tell you. And I asked her what, and she said that she had shot and killed a man that day.
Lee, it sounds like you've been betrayed by everyone.
That's right, I was. That's why I don't care if I'm executed and leave this planet.
If anyone was destined to end up here on death row, it was probably Lee Wuornos. Psychologists sketch a portrait of a damaged person with a lurid history of abuse that began in childhood. Abandoned by her teenage mother when she was just 6 months old, Lee was raised by her alcoholic grandmother and a cruel grandfather who regularly beat her with his belt buckle. When she was 2, her father committed suicide in jail, where he was doing time for kidnapping and raping a child. By 13, she'd been raped and was pregnant. At 14, she quit school. And when her grandfather kicked her out of home, Lee Wuornos' life on the road began. From age 15, Lee Wuornos worked prostitution's lowest and most dangerous trade. A hitchhiking hooker turning tricks from exit to exit on Florida's interstate highways.
Basically, I'd say I had 5 to 6 guys per day interested. They could be interested in 30, they could be interested in 40, they could be interested for 100. I wasn't too high priced, so I could keep the customers satisfied and, you know.
That all changed when she turned 33. After years of abuse and degradation at the hands of men, Lee Wuornos started evening the score. The killings all began like this. A middle-aged man pulled over to pick up Lee Wuornos. That's the first of just 2 facts on which everyone agrees. The way Lee tells it, she was just a hooker trying to turn a trick, and the men knew it. The state of Florida maintains she tricked her victims by posing as a damsel in distress. The men thought they were helping her out. Either way, the second fact on which everyone agrees is that Lee Wuornos shot them dead. Maybe you were just born bad. How do you...
Boy, I don't know about you. I'm telling you, man. No, I wasn't born bad. You guys got it. See, I'm trying to tell you, man, they lied. They lied so bad to you all.
But you've been convicted of killing 7 men.
Everybody's looking at the number.
Does that not... You killed 7 men, 7 strangers. Does that not make you a serial killer?
So I didn't kill them every day, did I? Did I go out there every day and say, I'm gonna kill? If I did, there would
well,
be
no,
hundreds.
it took you 12 months.
Yeah. And that's a hell of a lot of men I went through before the next jerk came along, and I used protection, like a condom.
So it was
AIDS.
It was self-defense.
Yeah.
Lee, the first one, perhaps, the second maybe, but
So what?
7 times?
So what?
Lee Wuornos began the last day of her miserable life on the road here, ordering her first beer at 11 in the morning. Close to broke, as usual, it was Lee's style to hustle quarters for the jukebox so she could listen to her favourite song. On this day, that was made easier by 2 undercover cops. They struck up a conversation with her, bought her some more beer, and then convinced her to step outside.
I'm digging up bones, I'm digging up.
Lee was prepared for anything but the 6 Florida police officers who arrested her. It was from this point the story of the first female serial killer becomes truly perplexing. First, her videotaped confession. "Go ahead and put the electric chair to me. I should have never done it," she told police. But by the time of her trial, Lee was pleading self-defense.
She loved you, didn't she?
Yes?
She said she'd do anything for you, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
Her case wasn't helped when Tyria Moore, now very much her ex-lover, turned star witness for the prosecution.
And in order for her to say what you wanted her to, you lied to her, right?
Yes?
But it gets worse. Tyria had another deal going with the arresting police. They were trying to sell Hollywood the movie rights to Lee Wuornos's life and crazy times.
Why did you lie to her about those number of things?
Because I wanted her to keep talking about the offenses so I would be cleared.
District Attorney Rick Ridgway is one of the only officials willing to talk about the Wuornos case anymore. The police certainly won't, out of sheer embarrassment.
There was a tremendous amount of almost frenzy about the case, and everybody wanted to get a scoop on the next guy about the case, and there were so many people who were willing to pander to that in order to be the one who gets quoted or who gets the movie made about him.
People from your own sheriff's office?
Well, unfortunately, yes, they did.
As the prosecutor, were you dismayed by that?
Well, to put it mildly, we went through the roof when we found out about it.
In the end, it was only the producers of this American TV movie who were able to cash in on Lee's story. Tyria and the police's conspiracy to get rich quick came to nothing once they were caught. But that hasn't stopped Lee Wuornos suspecting that someone, somewhere, wants to exploit her name.
It's making me get bitter, evil, angry. I've never been before in my life. Worse than even out there with those men. This is evil, what those people have done to me.
Do you feel anger or even hatred towards men?
I never hated men, but now I do. I mean, not all. I have a category. I hate those male... God. I hate those male cops. Real bad, because they're dirtballs. The cops, the judges, the lawyers, they're all male.
I have made peace with my Lord, and I have asked forgiveness.
The final twist in this already mad tale was when Lee Wuornos decided to plead no contest to the remaining 6 murder charges.
I sentence you in case number 91-463 to death for the murder of Troy Burris.
Her lawyer, Steve Glazer, found himself in the bizarre position of helping his client take the express route to the electric chair.
County case number, I sentence you to death for the murder of David Spears.
Thank you. And probably see, I'll be up in heaven while y'all are rotting in hell.
In effect, though, weren't you trying to kill your client?
It's not what I was trying to do, okay? It's what she wanted to have done to her. She was tired of being in the spotlight. She was tired of reporters and police and lawyers, everyone making a career off of her. She did not like the man-hating, killer label. She didn't like the lesbian killer angle. She didn't like what people were saying about her. And she knows if she has to go to trial 5 more times, she's going to be for the next 10 years.
Do you still believe she was competent to make that decision?
Without a doubt.
Okay, there will be an automatic appeal. You have the right to an appeal. Mr. Glazer, is that going to be handled by you
May
or the
your
public
wife and
defender?
kids get raped.
I would ask that you would appoint
Right.
the public office.
Okay, I'll appoint the public defender's office to handle the appeal. There's one other thing that I want to say that I think needs to be said.
I know I was raped, and you weren't nothing but a bunch of stump.
Therefore, these proceedings are now
Putting
concluded.
somebody who was raped to death.
Do you still want the chair?
There's no sense in having me tormented for the rest of my life when I don't deserve to be tormented. I did what anybody else would do. And so there's only clemency or the chair. You make your pick, people, because that's the only way it's going to be.
Why did you adopt Lee Wuornos?
For one reason and one reason only. We wanted her to know what it felt like to be part of a family.
Born-again Christian Aileen Wuornos has a fondness for adopting stray animals. When she adopted Lee, she planned a life together on her farm. Now she'd be happy just to keep her alive. That's it.
Look,
Okay, that's about enough. There you go. Well, tell me this, how did you counsel Lee?
I told her to go for the life in prison. I told her that that would be the best. I told her that God could use her within the prison to help other girls that were hurting, maybe didn't have a relationship with Jesus, and that she could really be used mightily there. And we fought bitterly over it. She said that no human being had the right to tell another human being what to do with their life.
Stop the murders, deter the crimes away.
Not much phases the singing lawyer Steve Glazer. Not the 3 heart attacks he's suffered since taking on this case, nor the criticism he's endured for seeking Lee Wuornos' execution.
And a rich man's never died upon the chair.
Has this case been good for your career?
No. But that's life, you know, you take oblada, life goes on, you try something else.
Is there anyone in this cast of characters who isn't a little bit crazy, a little bit eccentric?
I think you got to be a little wild to be in this business.
If Steve Glazer has done his job, Lee Wuornos could be executed in this chair within 3 years. She's waived her right to appeal.
If he hears no last-minute stays from the governor's office, the electrode then is placed on top of the inmate's head. It's an actual cap with an electrode inside. It's secured onto his head. One of these electrodes here is then fastened onto the top of the headpiece.
Alone and lost in her own nightmare, Lee Wuornos is an American horror story. She could escape death row, but her bitterness and hate will see Lee become the first woman in over a century to be executed in Florida. Aren't you afraid?
No, I'm not afraid. I know where I'm going. I'm going to be with the Lord.
Thank you,
Take
too.
care of yourself and tell everybody else hi.
Do you want to die? You want to?
Oh man, if I was to leave this planet, it wouldn't be no big deal to me, because this is a wicked, wicked world. Wicked world.
You're unlikely to meet anyone sweeter than Gypsy-Rose Blanchard. She really is charming, but she's also a convicted murderer. With help from a boyfriend she met online, she killed her very own mother. The brutal crime, Dee Blanchard was stabbed to death, happened 10 years ago, and Gypsy-Rose was jailed. But she's now free and very determined to let the world know why she did what she did.
I bought some things. So we have the crib, we have a dresser.
Gypsy-Rose Blanchard has one promise for her soon-to-be-born first child. Whatever it takes, she'll be the best mother she can be. So what are we looking for?
Clothes.
Yeah.
I love shopping for clothes.
And certainly nothing like her own mother. who, while pretending to be loving and caring,
And what about your mum? Did she like dressing you up and...
She did, she did.
was anything but. So evil, in fact, Gypsy has just spent 8.5 years in jail for murdering her.
Breaking news this morning, 48-year-old Dee Blanchard was found dead inside her home, and her 19-year-old daughter Gypsy is still considered missing.
This is an ongoing investigation. And I want to start off with saying things are not always as they appear.
I wasn't born evil. I wasn't born a murderer. My circumstances took me there, and that was my path.
It's a tale with all the twists and turns of a Hollywood thriller. A sweet little girl plagued by relentless and serious illness. Gypsy was raised by a seemingly doting single mum who was, in fact, a monster.
She was particularly manipulative and convincing.
Isolated and abused, for decades, Gypsy slipped through the cracks of America's healthcare system. Until, she says, she had no choice but to end her mother's life.
Are you a victim or a murderer?
I'm both victim and perpetrator.
And do these photos bring back happy memories, or are they upsetting for you?
They were the simple times in life.
Yeah.
I say when things were good.
Yeah?
So.
Born in Louisiana in 1991 and raised by her mother, Claudine, or Dee Blanchard, Gypsy was a sickly child. Also, Dee told everyone, including the little girl's father, Rod, who she rarely saw.
Right from birth, 3 months old, Dee was telling me that she had sleep apnea, which, I mean, till this day, I don't know if that was real or not. You know, it escalated from then. Problems with her eyes, hearing, her digestive system. After that, Gypsy couldn't walk anymore. She had a muscular disorder.
Dee confined Gypsy to a wheelchair, even when it was just the two of them at home, and fed her daughter medications which gave her horrible side effects, mimicking the symptoms of various illnesses.
There was a long list of medical illnesses that my mom told the doctors that I had, ranging from muscular dystrophy to leukemia, hearing impaired, vision impaired, anything that could be wrong with someone, honestly.
And you believed her?
I did believe her because I grew up that way. So she started telling the doctors that I had sleep apnea when I was just a baby. And then it graduated to a seizure disorder, and she kept building on that list of things. So by the end of it all, there was not a single part of my body that didn't have something supposedly wrong with it.
By the age of 8, Gypsy was a regular patient in local hospitals and had a feeding tube inserted in her stomach.
I think the feeding tube is one of the things that gives me the most alarm, because once a child has a tube that either goes through their nose and into their stomach, or directly surgically a tube that goes into their stomach, that parent can put in any kind of poisoning or medicine or toxin, and they can also starve the child.
Total control.
Total control.
Professor Beatrice Yorker is one of America's leading experts in child abuse. She says Dee Blanchard had a severe case of Munchausen syndrome by proxy.
Munchausen syndrome is a condition where somebody makes themselves ill for the purposes of getting medical attention. When it's Munchausen syndrome by proxy, or Munchausen by proxy abuse, instead of making yourself sick, you make your child sick or a dependent in your care sick for the purposes of getting medical attention.
Why would any mother do this?
They do it because they are getting their needs for attention. Their needs to be in a nurturing hospital environment. Their need to be seen as a caring, wonderful mother, doing everything for their child that has special needs or is dying or has some horrible condition. And they bask in it, and they have a compulsive need to get that kind of attention.
And in this case, financial reward as well.
Exactly.
The sweet little sick girl captured the hearts and pity of Americans. Gypsy and Dee Dee were given cash from charities, trips to Disney World, even a new home.
It's beautiful, and it's happy, and it's full of love.
But experiences that seemed charming in childhood lost their shine by her early 20s. When Gypsy discovered the internet and the world she was missing out on. It was here at New Orleans Children's Hospital where Gypsy spent so much of her childhood, undergoing dozens of medical procedures which she now knows were unnecessary. Her mother, Dee Dee, would bring Gypsy here with an endless list of problems and symptoms. The seemingly doting parent insisting her child needed treatment. And if suspicions were raised or questions asked, Dee Dee would quickly move hospitals, even cities. Over the years, Gypsy was treated by at least 150 doctors and medical specialists. At what stage or age did you realise that it was a farce?
I knew that I could walk. I knew that I could eat, so I didn't need the feeding tube. But the other things like cancer, you can't see that. So I had believed that I had cancer up until the time that I was arrested and could talk to my lawyer.
How does a mother or any parent convince medical professionals that their child is, in this case, terminally ill, when in fact they're perfectly healthy?
Oh, it's so easy. Doctors are trained to rely on the history provided by the patient or provided by the patient's parent. So when a mother says, my child has been vomiting and vomiting and they can't keep food down, and the child looks dehydrated and maybe emaciated or underweight, the doctor believes the mother that the child has been vomiting and vomiting. And maybe it turned out that the mother is actually not feeding the child.
So is it a serious mental illness?
No. The people who do this are perfectly conscious and aware and plan and premeditate what they do.
And their victims are typically young, vulnerable, and therefore obedient. The question so many people want to know, why didn't you get up and walk? Tell someone, run away, tell a doctor?
I don't think people understand the emotional hold that an abuser has on their victims. So, asking me that is the same as putting me in a category of saying, well, domestic violence survivors, why didn't they just leave their abusive husbands?
Trapped and desperate, what Gypsy did next stunned the community and police, propelling her to fame as one of America's most notorious criminals. Coming up, whose plan was it to kill your mother?
It was my plan.
Gypsy's violent path to freedom and the man who helped her commit murder. Did you instruct him to stab her 17 times?
No, I did not.
To nearly decapitate her? Kirker could easily have his own cooking show.
Makes some simple but pretty good, healthy dishes for an expecting mother.
But the 31-year-old seems content playing a supporting role to fiancée and convicted killer Gypsy-Rose Blanchard. The pair met while Gypsy was behind bars. Ken was a pen pal, and now they're preparing to welcome their first child.
I mean, I want to be there for her and for my daughter as much as possible, so it really...
It's a happy, relaxed home, a striking contrast to Gypsy's upbringing and path to parenthood.
So where are you going today? I'm going to Children's Mercy Hospital to see my...
Gypsy spent her childhood in and out of hospitals, confined to a wheelchair she didn't need. Her mother, Dee Dee, had a sinister secret, a disorder known as Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Not only pretending Gypsy was terribly ill, but making her daughter sick, drugging her, and convincing doctors to insert a feeding tube, among other procedures. By the time Gypsy was 23, she had had enough.
So at what point did you make that decision that killing your mother was the only way that you could be free?
I had tried to exhaust all the options that I thought was available to me.
It's a sign of the desperation. I think you were such a, seemingly sweet young woman with having lived a very sheltered life.
Exactly.
That's where your mind went.
Exactly. Because it's not like I had a criminal record. It's not that I had a history of violence or anything like that.
Been running with the wrong crowd?
No running with the wrong crowd. It was
In fact, you had no friends.
I didn't have any friends. I wasn't allowed to. So she controlled everything in my life.
In 2012, on a Christian dating website, Gypsy met the man who she hoped would set her free.
Godejohn also has a criminal past. In 2013, he was arrested after investigators say he was watching pornography and fondling himself in a McDonald's restaurant for 9 hours.
Nicholas Godejohn was 26, autistic and willing to kill in order to be with Gypsy.
I guess she's your girlfriend, Gypsy's your
Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
And you love her?
Oh, do I love her?
Over the next 3 years, the couple hatched an horrific but unsophisticated plan to end Gypsy's torment. On the night of June 9, 2015, Nicholas Godejohn travelled from his home state of Wisconsin to Gypsy and Dee Dee's home in Missouri.
I was with my mom in our Habitat for Humanity home. We watched a movie, and then we went to sleep, and then it happened.
Do you remember your last words with her?
I did. I did go to the kitchen and I gave her a hug and I told her I love you. And I remember holding a pillow that she slept with like every night and crying into it and apologizing to this pillow as if it were her. And just saying, I'm so sorry and I love you. And just taking in the scent of the pillow. Because in a sense, it's like saying goodbye.
Gypsy waited till her mother fell asleep, then let Nicholas in to do the deadly deed.
And when she was killed, where were you?
I was in the bathroom.
Could you hear her?
I could. And in that moment, like, I wanted to help her. Like, the thoughts in my head was, I want to help, but I was almost paralyzed in my own skin to move.
Did you instruct him to stab her 17 times?
No, I did not.
To nearly decapitate her?
No, I did not.
Gypsy is strikingly calm, almost detached, as she recalls the horrific events that would land her boyfriend in jail for life.
I do feel responsible for the murder, and I felt like 2 lives were taken that night, my mother's and his, because he went to prison for the rest of his life.
I have to say, I've spent a couple of days with you now. You don't strike me as someone who's capable of planning a murder?
Well, I mean, my situation was very centered around my circumstances. So I can honestly say I would have never committed that crime had I not been pushed to the brink where I really just snapped. Guilty.
The court finds that there is a factual basis for a plea of guilty.
In fact, life with her mother was so unbearable that for Gypsy, prison felt like a holiday.
That was the most freedom I had ever had. I was like, I could have a job now. And, you know, I was one of those people that's like, yay, I'm excited to have a job.
And eat normal food?
Eat normal food. Like, this is...
So this was the independence that you had not experienced?
Exactly. It's a newfound independence.
She was released 8.5 years into her 10-year sentence and remains on parole. But life after lockup has been far from normal.
How has re-entry been?
Re-entry's been a whirlwind for me.
Gypsy's awful crime evoked a combination of outrage and sympathy, making her an instant celebrity. A reality TV star and social media influencer.
I'm vlogging the whole thing. Oh, look at that! Look at this little sign!
You might think someone who'd had such an extraordinarily complex and ultimately fatal mother-daughter relationship would be daunted. But Gypsy and Ken refused to let the past dictate their future.
We definitely did go off the rails. We got tattoos and we got pregnant with them.
They're starting over, determined to create a safe and happy home for their baby girl.
What would you like childhood to be like for your daughter?
I mean, honestly, I would just want my children and my child to have a childhood that, like, I never had.
Yeah.
So, I mean, growing up, like, I missed out on all those, like, milestone moments, like going to kindergarten and, you know, a prom and all these different things that kids experience. I didn't get to.
A few weeks after we met Gypsy, just after Christmas last year, the couple welcomed baby Aurora.
I don't have any fears of becoming a mother. I never did. I just will say that my will to be a better mother than what my mother was is so strong that I'm not going to continue the cycle.
I think that Gypsy recognizes that she does not want to be the way her mother was.
Professor Beatrice Yorker is a world-renowned expert in Munchausen syndrome by proxy. She's adamant this tragic tale can have a happy ending.
I think she'll work really hard to be a nurturing and caring and authentic mother. And, you know, it is just a relief to see how possible that can be for survivors of such extreme abuse.
So what'd you get?
A cute little outfit. There was a lot of cute things in that store.
After more than 20 years with no voice, Gypsy is telling her story in her own words. But she knows the toughest conversation is still ahead of her.
How do you plan to tell your daughter your story and what happened to her grandmother?
I knew from day one that this conversation would have to happen with my kids someday. And that's why my book is so important, because this book is my legacy. And I will always be honest with her. Ken and I both will sit her down, have a conversation surrounded by family, and we will let her know what happens.
Do you feel that you've done the time for your crime?
You know, I really, really struggle with that. They could give me 10 years in prison, but that's not gonna stop the guilt and the regret and the remorse and the nightmares and the stigma that I have to live the rest of my life with. So in a sense, I have a life sentence. I'm just living it in a much bigger prison.
It is a crime as shocking as it is evil. the murders of 7 babies and the attempted murder of 7 others by a British nurse who preyed on the infants in her care. This angel of death, 35-year-old Lucy Letby, is officially one of the most prolific child killers of modern times. But growing doubts could turn the case on its head. Letby's backers claim concerns about the reliability of complex medical and circumstantial evidence used to convict her have been turbocharged by new information that raises serious questions about her guilt. The implications couldn't be starker. Either Lucy Letby is a sadistic monster, or she is the victim of an appalling miscarriage of justice.
Hello, Lucy, is it?
Yeah.
Hello.
6 a.m, the 3rd of July, 2018.
Hello, my name's Chester, please. It's step in 2 seconds.
Oh, yes?
The day police took Lucy Letby into custody. A day that marks one of the most significant moments in British criminal history. The young neonatal nurse, the archetypal girl next door.
Yeah, I've just had knee surgery. Oh, right, okay.
Stood accused of the unthinkable, murdering 7 babies in her care and attempting to murder 7 more. They were shocking crimes that last year saw her sentenced to 15 whole life terms.
Making the 33-year-old the UK's worst child killer in modern times.
But her conviction is not the end of a case that is as confounding as it is disturbing. On one side, those who are certain Lucy Letby is a serial killer whose crimes are so heinous she should die in jail.
She was stalking these babies, looking for an opportunity to kill them.
The slam dunk is that death followed Lucy Letby around.
But equally strident are those convinced she committed no crime at all.
Lucy Letby must be free!
Tonight, you will hear from both sides. On the one hand, that she's a cold-blooded killer.
You will spend the rest of your life in prison.
On the other, in an extraordinary twist, the experts who have found no evidence of murder. These babies died through natural causes. Was that your conclusion?
This was so obvious as to have us falling off our chairs.
I think she will be exonerated.
Is that right? You're not overblowing this, are you?
I think it's going to be the biggest miscarriage of justice in the criminal justice history of the United Kingdom.
In the case against Lucy Letby, the scene of the crime was here at the Countess of Chester Hospital in Cheshire in northwest England. Suspicions were first raised in 2015 by senior doctors after a spike in deaths nearly 3 times the hospital's yearly average. But inaction by hospital management forced the worried doctors to demand police be brought in 2 years later.
My role was to find out, if I could, what had caused the collapse, what had caused the death, and how this had occurred.
Retired paediatrician Dr. Dowie Evans reviewed the baby's deaths for police, and he would later become the prosecution's star witness. Almost immediately, he found reason to be suspicious, uncovering 7 unexplained deaths and 9 sudden collapses, which he advised needed further scrutiny.
These were babies who were under control. In other words, they were not requiring huge amounts of oxygen. They were not requiring breathing support. They were quite stable, and suddenly, from being quite stable, they suddenly would collapse.
Unaware then of who might be responsible, and after ruling out all other possibilities, Dr. Evans arrived at the only explanation he found plausible. There must have been foul play. Did you think we have a horror show here? What did you think was going on?
Yeah, you really had to think the unthinkable.
The unthinkable meant there was deliberate harm being done. There was a murderer on the ward. And Cheshire Constabulary had a suspect they were zeroing in on. The then 28-year-old Lucy Letby. What made her a suspect was that while no one ever saw her harm these infants, Letby was the only staff member who was on shift every time there was a questionable collapse or death. What was she doing to these babies?
Lucy Letby harmed babies in a number of ways. She harmed babies by injecting air via syringe into the bloodstream. She harmed other babies by giving a large amount of milk, or probably milk and air, into the stomach. There's evidence that she harmed some babies directly, and she'd harmed some babies by injecting them with insulin.
Oh, Lucy, is it?
Yeah. In July 2018, detectives pounced, arresting and probing the young nurse about the rise in baby deaths on the unit.
They told me that there would be a lot more deaths and that I've been linked to something that's there for a lot of them.
Did you have any concerns that there was a rise in mortality rate?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me about that. What concerns did you have?
I think we don't just notice as a team in general, the nursing staff, that this was a rise compared to previous years.
But while Letby was maintaining her innocence to investigators, a search of her home would uncover a trove of incriminating evidence, including hundreds of case notes, some relating to the babies that had collapsed, stuffed inside shopping bags. She also repeatedly searched for their parents on social media. But the most damning of all, this note, "I am evil, I did this." On the face of it, a chilling confession to the most shocking of crimes. Is there something in this case that is a slam dunk for you, David, that makes you believe she is guilty?
Death followed her about. You know, Lucy Letby went on holiday, there were no deaths. Lucy Letby returns from holiday, there are immediately 2 deaths. What is the evidence that would actually...
Criminologist Professor David Wilson specialises in studying serial killers. He believes the case against Letby was made when the prosecution presented the so-called confession note, as well as a roster that showed she was the only nurse on duty for all suspicious deaths.
In terms of the impact that they had on the jury, I'm absolutely convinced they were gotcha moments, because it was something that a jury of 12 ordinary people could latch onto. Well, you know, why is she writing that? Look, it stands to reason that if she's on shift and there are spikes in the numbers of deaths, it must be her that are causing them. That was the prosecution's case.
In July last year, Lucy Letby was convicted and sentenced never to be released from jail.
2 juries looked at the evidence that was presented and said, yeah, we think she is a serial killer.
But now the other side, the defence case. And as you'll see, the new revelations they believe will set Lucy Letby free.
The evidence that went before the jury has been demolished now by the fresh evidence, and we need to get back to the Criminal Court of Appeal.
You believe her?
I do.
Two juries and 3 appeal court judges have found her guilty beyond reasonable doubt.
She perverted her learning to inflict harm, grief, and death.
You have coldly denied any responsibility for any wrongdoing.
But could British nurse Lucy Letby, serving life for attacking and killing premature babies, be innocent?
The new lawyers for serial baby killer Lucy Letby will say that they will reveal new medical evidence this morning, which they say could cast doubt over her convictions.
Dr. Dowie Evans, the man whose medical evidence helped convict her, certainly doesn't think so.
She's the worst female serial killer in English history.
Do you have any fear that you have got this wrong?
No. She was convicted of 7 murders and several attempted murders, and the evidence was overwhelming and consistent.
You're pointing a finger at someone when that person is totally innocent.
Defence barrister Mark MacDonald represents Lucy Letby in what has become the UK's most controversial case, going head-to-head with Dr. Evans, the prosecution's star expert witness.
no direct evidence against Lucy Letby that she was seen to do any harm against any baby. No CCTV or forensics or whatever, nothing.
Nobody saw her harm any of these babies. These people need to go out a bit more. This is what happens with murders.
But Mark is fighting for a new trial for his client, claiming fresh evidence will prove Letby has suffered an unthinkable miscarriage of justice.
I've sort of drawn an analogy of someone who has been convicted and is in prison, and we found new DNA to say that that person didn't do it. That's how powerful this fresh evidence is.
Is that right? You're not overblowing this, are you?
No, I don't think so. Look, the evidence that went before the jury has been demolished now by the fresh evidence, and we need to get back to the Criminal Court of Appeal.
The first plank of the defence case is to debunk the overwhelming circumstantial evidence presented in Letby's trials. Evidence that she stalked the parents of her tiny victims on social media. That she stole confidential case notes from the hospital, a macabre keepsake of her kills. And in her own words, Letby seemingly confessed to her crimes. Does that not point to guilt?
So, the circumstantial evidence has little weight. She took home with her what are referred to as handover notes. They're not medical records.
Was it not hundreds?
It was 250 of them, to be precise. And she explained, you know what, yes, they were there, they shouldn't have been there. I'm a bit of a hoarder when it comes to pieces of paper. Yes, it was wrong. Does that mean that she killed these babies? No, it does not.
Has Lucy Letby explained to you why she looked up the families of these babies who were sent her to this investigation?
You've got to remember that on this unit, some of the babies that she was looking after would be on that unit for weeks, possibly months. She would get to know the family. She also did numerous Facebook searches for families and babies that did not feature on this indictment. She didn't just look up certain few, she looked up loads.
These scrawled notes, written by Letby, were compelling to the jury, but according to Mark, do not constitute a confession. He says rather than an admission of something she'd done, it spoke to how she was made to feel after being taken off the ward pending investigation. A stream of consciousness, encouraged by a counsellor. But did the counsellor tell her to say that I'm evil and I did it?
She also said, I did nothing, why are they picking on me? That's the notes. It wasn't a confession note because part of it also exonerated her.
I bet you'd prefer she hadn't written them, though.
If you ran a trial on those notes, she'd be sitting here next to me.
It does not confirm the murder, but it does explain that we are dealing with a very, very unusual personality and someone who, in my opinion, should be reviewed in detail by an appropriately trained forensic psychiatrist.
But as the prosecution's star witness, it was Dr. Dowie Evans' medical opinion that counted most at trial. And his opinion was Lucy Letby coldly and calculatingly killed babies by injecting them with air. Others she poisoned with insulin.
So we had babies who were just dying unexpectedly. There was only one nurse on duty, and that was Lucy Letby.
You have to accept, of course, that just because she was there does not mean that she murdered those babies.
That is absolutely correct. The evidence of criminality was based on the clinical information, how these babies died, and the accumulation of information gathered by the police that placed her at the scene of the crime.
Letby would be convicted of murdering a total of 7 babies and trying to murder 7 more.
My anxieties were hugely amplified, I have to say.
But now Letby's defence barrister, Mark MacDonald, has brought together an international panel of 14 medical experts. And their conclusions have turned the case on its head. What did you discover?
What jumped out at us, absolutely jumped out at us, were these very, very plausible alternative explanations that did not involve malfeasance of any kind, did not involve wrongdoing of any kind.
So, according to leading UK neonatologist Professor Nina Modi, there was no murder and no attempted murder. If it wasn't Lucy Letby, what happened?
These babies were vulnerable, they were frail, and they suffered from a range of conditions, some of which were quite common in neonatal intensive care, but some of which were very rare indeed. But they found themselves in what we call a level 2 neonatal unit. That's not a neonatal unit that is staffed or equipped to cope with babies with this degree of illness and vulnerability. And yet that is where they were cared for.
These babies died or fell ill through natural causes or through lack of proper medical care. Was that your conclusion?
That was our conclusion, that's right.
Well, if you found that there was no wrongdoing, that there was no murder, then that's a miscarriage of justice, isn't it? If you've got a woman serving 15 whole life terms in jail.
It's certainly a reason to re-examine the case.
So if the panel is right, there was no air injected into the newborns and Lucy Letby is no killer, which also means she didn't poison 2 babies with insulin, for which she has been found guilty of attempted murder. The insulin evidence was considered the smoking gun in the original trial. Even Letby admitted, under cross-examination, that the babies had been poisoned, just not by her. But now her legal team has slammed the insulin tests which helped convict Letby, claiming it's been proven they can produce false results.
Those tests are wholly unreliable and should never have been put before the jury. The evidence that went before the jury has been demolished now by the fresh evidence, and we need to get back to the Criminal Court of Appeal.
That panel says it finds no case of murder for any of the babies that died and no intentional harm against the babies who collapsed. What is your response to their conclusion?
I think that the collective opinions of the panel is about as weak a group of opinions that I've ever seen.
Coming up, while the experts fight it out, police are closing in on even more suspicious baby deaths on Letby's watch. How many?
At least a dozen of them.
It's an ordinary day in the UK city of Birmingham. But barrister Mark MacDonald is about to do something that could change the course of legal history. He's submitting what he says is fresh evidence that proves British baby killer Lucy Letby has been wrongly convicted.
I mean, this is it. This evidence has now been put before the Criminal Case Review Commission from the experts who say shows that she is innocent.
If he can convince the Commission he has new evidence, the neonatal nurse will have one last chance at freedom in the appeal court. A chance to overturn the 15 life sentences for murdering 7 babies and attempting to murder 7 more.
I had to go to the leading neonatologists in the world, and that's what I've done. So we're in a different ballpark, if I can put it that way.
Those leading experts found there was no evidence of murder or deliberate harm. A member of the panel, Professor Nina Modi, is a top neonatologist in the UK.
In each and every one of these cases, there was a very, very plausible alternative explanation.
But just because there's a plausible alternative explanation, does that actually clear Lucy Letby of murder?
No, what it does is require a much more detailed discussion to reach a view as to what went on. What seems to have happened, though, is that a less likely explanation for death has been seized upon rather than a more likely explanation for death.
But the man who ruled murder was the only explanation, the prosecution's lead witness, Dr. Dowie Evans, stands by his findings. So the call for a retrial, what's your position on that?
They've reached a different opinion. Their barrister is saying there's new evidence. There is no new evidence, there's only new opinion. And the opinion has not been tested in court.
One of the most confounding questions about the Letby case is how the original trial was run by the defence. Curiously, apart from a plumber, no expert witnesses were called to rebut the allegations made against the young nurse. You have to ask why. No one from the medical sphere appeared to counter the prosecution's case. Can you explain why at the original trial there were no defence witnesses, expert witnesses?
I'm a new team. I took over in September, and it would be pure speculation on my part for me to say why they weren't called, but they were not called. And I have to deal with it. It's just a fact. They were not called.
If there is new evidence, as her new barrister says, then the process should be gone through, shouldn't it? That should be heard in an appeals court.
Well, I love the way you put the phrase new evidence in inverted commas, because of course it's not new evidence.
An expert in serial killers, Professor David Wilson, believes there was a very calculated reason why not one medico was called to defend Lucy Letby at her first trial. The people who are calling for her to be let go are not idiots. They're professionals.
Remember, this international team of medical experts are giving their opinion in front of TV cameras. They would have to be able to withstand cross-examination about what they're being asked. Now, are you going to get a medical expert to say 100%, I'm 100% convinced that that baby didn't die as a result of Lucy Letby doing that? I don't think they would.
Played out in the court of public opinion, the debate about Lucy Letby's innocence or guilt has led to an extraordinary amount of vitriol directed at all sides of the case. This is how your theories have been described by various medical experts. They're described as nonsensical, rubbish, ridiculous, implausible, fantastical, and even bollocks.
Yes, well, I think that says everything, doesn't it? Who are these people and where have they been over the last 8 years? And I think all the sofa sleuths and the Poundland Poirots, as one journalist have described them, really need to look at all of the evidence.
During all this, the families of the babies injured and murdered have maintained their anonymity, but they are adamant Lucy Letby is where she belongs. The parents of the victims have categorised really your inquiry and the calls for a new appeal as a misinformed circus. What is your response to that?
Great sadness. I can understand how upsetting this must be for them. But ultimately, I have never ever met a family who did not want the truth.
But it's those families that are saying that you and the panel are misinformed, that you're adding to their grief.
It's not our intention to add to their grief. It's our intention to reach the truth.
You know, if you talk about Lucy Letby, you go down a rabbit hole of conspiracy theory. She is St. Lucy of Letby. She's become part of our culture wars.
And why is that? Why does she embody that?
I think she embodies that because she was nice. A nice Lucy Letby. And I think, you know, there's a sense in which people can't get their head around that Lucy Letby has been convicted of 7 murders and is, as things stand today, the worst serial murderer of children in British history.
The shift from sinner to saint has been remarkable for a woman we know so little about. Apart from maintaining she hurt no child, Letby remains silent. What do you think Lucy Letby makes of this attention, this change of mood about her guilt or innocence?
In my experience, serial killers love being the centre of attention. And if we're thinking about possible motives for why she might have done this, she might have had a hero complex, that need to be the center of attention, that desire to be a hero in a hero's tale. And of course, nursing very sick babies is going to make you the center of attention, whether those babies survive or, tragically, whether those babies die.
Hero, not monster, is how Letby's team wants her to be judged in the Court of Appeal.
We have new hope here. And she sees it, but she also sees it as her last chance from her point of view to get the truth out there. All Lucy Letby wants is a fair hearing.
You believe her?
I do.
I am Detective Chief Inspector Nicola Evans of Cheshire Constabulary. This has been a long and emotional journey.
The police have come out and said the Lucy Letby case has been rigorously and fairly tested. Do you accept that that's the case?
We do not.
Where has the failure been?
In failing to consider these highly plausible alternative explanations for the deaths and deteriorations of these babies.
But just as calls for Lucy Letby's release mount,
Lucy Letby must be free.
Police are intensifying their investigation, scrutinising all baby deaths and near-fatal collapses that occurred on Letby's watch throughout her entire career. And they're expected to lay more charges against the nurse within months. In your opinion, are there other babies who died, other babies who were hurt at the hands of Lucy Letby that she has not been convicted of?
I think so, yes.
How many?
I think about at least a dozen of them. Lucy Letby was on duty for all of these cases as well.
So I'm prepared to be on the wrong side of history, if there is a future trial. But am I pleased that Lucy Letby is no longer working with children? You damn right I'm pleased that she's no longer working with children.
It's a simple question with a diabolically difficult answer. Is Tegan Lane dead or alive? She was last seen as a 2-day-old leaving a Sydney hospital with her mother Kelly, an aspiring Australian Olympian. That was 20 years ago. What happened to baby Tegan after that has never been explained. Instead, there have been any number of theories, mostly to do with the bizarre behaviour of her mother. In 2010, Kelly Lane was found guilty of murdering Tegan, even though her body has never been found. Now, in a last desperate bid to prove she is not a baby killer, Kelly's parents, Sandra and Robert, break their silence.
Yep. Great shots.
Yeah. Brings back a lot of memories.
How are you feeling about the sentence, Mrs. Lane? How's Kelly?
And that's one when we're a very, very happy family.
Please don't nudge me like that.
Robert and Sandra Lane's dream is to be enjoying a comfortable retirement on Sydney's northern beaches, surrounded by family. But that will never happen while their only daughter Kelly, a former champion water polo player, languishes in prison.
She was girl of the carnival.
In January 2004, Sandra and Robert's world was torn apart when they first learned Kelly had been leading a double life.
But I'm still not sure why you have to discuss. You asked me here to talk about Tegan. I'm confused now.
I want to get to the truth.
How did you react to that news?
We were shocked.
Stunned would be a really good word.
Australians watched in disbelief as the Kelly Lane story unfolded. A popular elite water polo player secretly gives birth to 3 children. She adopts 2 of them out, but one, Tegan, simply vanishes. How can a child disappear without anyone knowing? And how did Kelly Lane hide 3 pregnancies? Tonight, Kelly's parents, Sandra and Robert, are breaking their silence. It's difficult for them. They hate the spotlight. But they're here because they believe there's been a miscarriage of justice. And Kelly should be free.
The general perception out there is your daughter's a convicted child killer.
Well, of course it is. But it happened prior to her being convicted. She was being demonised in the media for
years.
10 years. There was nothing nice said about her.
Kelly Lane, who's now 40, is 5 years into an 18-year sentence for killing her baby, Tegan, back in 1996. But she says she didn't do it and that there's a simple explanation. Tegan isn't dead. When she was 2 days old, Kelly gave her away to the father, a man she'd had a brief affair with.
Do you believe Kelly's story?
Yes, I do. It sounds improbable, but there are a lot of improbable things happen in life.
Robert, do you believe it?
Of course. The truth's stranger than fiction, isn't it? They always say.
To understand Kelly, the convicted killer, it helps to understand Kelly, the person.
That's back to when she was 7.
Water polo was Kelly's passion. She loved the camaraderie of playing a team sport and was selected for various national squads.
This is the first time anyone's had a chance to hear about Kelly. She's in jail, and so today you're her voice. Tell me about the Kelly that you know.
Well, Kelly was a wonderful daughter. She
still is.
And still is a wonderful daughter. We love her dearly, even though we've been in a difficult position for many years.
What were your hopes for her?
I just wanted her to be happy, to really enjoy what she was doing and whatever goals she had in life to achieve them.
In the mid-1990s, Kelly was making her name in the water polo world. On the cusp of success, she told nobody of her 3 pregnancies and the resulting children. Among teammates and friends, there were whispers about her fluctuating weight, even talk of a baby bump. But Kelly kept training and competing, only taking a couple of days off for each birth.
This was your daughter living under your roof, and you didn't notice she was pregnant 3 times.
Some people indicated they had suspicions, but we didn't know, and if you don't know, you don't know. It's as simple as that.
My friends didn't know.
Yeah.
And at the time, fashion-wise, you didn't wear tight clothes. It was just all baggy gear. And seeing she spent most of her time in, like, tracksuits and whatever, going to and from training and all the rest of it. I mean, nobody knew. That can happen with people. I mean, they have cases where women get a stomach pain, they think, and they go and have a baby. So.
But in this instance, I guess it was 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can't.
We can't say.
I can't give you any other answer. All I can say is that nobody knew.
Mm.
I mean, you don't go around with a great big sign on your head saying, I've had a baby.
Do you wish you had noticed?
Oh, of course.
Of course. It would be.
We wouldn't be in this position now, obviously.
To help her.
Tegan Lane was born on the 12th of September 1996. But what's central to this mystery is what happened 2 days later when Kelly and Tegan left hospital together. A few hours after being discharged, Kelly was celebrating a friend's wedding on the other side of Sydney. But Tegan had vanished. She's never been seen since.
Do you think Kelly murdered her baby?
No.
No.
Why are you so sure?
I don't think she'd hurt anybody, to be truthful, especially a child.
Kelly had a wedding on the other side of Sydney that afternoon. You don't think it's possible that she panicked? Dumped the baby somewhere?
No. It was broad daylight for a start. You know, where is she going to dump a child in broad daylight in such a short time frame?
What's truly alarming is how close Kelly came to keeping her secret forever. It wasn't until 1999, 3 years after Tegan was born, that a vigilant social worker discovered that she was missing. He alerted police, but it took 15 months before detectives asked Kelly the question, "Where's Tegan?"
In your words, can you just explain to us the circumstances of when the child was born and what happened subsequent to that?
After a brief affair with the father of the child, I gave birth. We made an arrangement that he would come and take custody of Tegan, as I was unable to take care of her myself.
Did you know the investigation was taking place?
No.
No idea.
No idea.
During her first interview with police, Kelly told detectives Tegan's father was Andrew Morris.
The natural father of the child is an Andrew Morris, is that correct?
That's correct.
But in a second interview more than 2 years later, she told them it could be Andrew Norris. She wasn't sure.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm confused.
Do you know the father of the child's name?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
Andrew Norris.
Norris?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you think Kelly understood the implications of those police interviews that she did with detectives?
No.
No.
If she did, she would have had a solicitor there and she wouldn't have any interviews.
Detectives grew even more suspicious when a nationwide search failed to find the father or baby Tegan.
Did you kill the child?
No, I did not. I did not do anything like that.
Someone else?
No.
Police were also secretly recording Kelly's phone calls. In one, she tells a friend she's terrified of losing her young daughter, Kelly's fourth child, who she kept.
I used to worry so much about wanting to be a sports star and being achieving these wonderful things, but the only thing I'm really good at is being a mum.
Kelly also reveals her fear that Robert and Sandra would find out about her secret pregnancies.
Katie, when my parents find out, and it's going to circulate, it's going to blow wide open. And they're going to be so embarrassed and ashamed.
You don't know that that's going to happen.
Oh, it is.
When did you find out? When did Kelly tell you about Tegan?
Well, she didn't tell us. The police told us.
Why do you think Kelly felt she couldn't confide in you?
I believe that she was trying to protect us, our standing in the community. She's trying to protect her standing in the community and possibly the father's. And for that reason alone.
You know,
You got to remember.
something that she was very young.
19 to 21 this was happening. So what goes through young girls' minds, well, I don't know.
Hello?
Hi, Mum, it's May.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
All right.
That's good.
The phone taps also reveal how Sandra was questioning her daughter's story.
So was the child still alive up until 3 years ago?
Up until...
Well, you said they first contacted you 3 years ago.
Yeah, I'm under the assumption she still is now.
As more of this bizarre story became public, more of Kelly's dark secrets and inconsistencies were laid bare. The investigation and Kelly's eventual murder trial would drag on for more than a decade.
I find that the offence was premeditated, but only for a short time. It was committed in a situation of desperation, arising from a sense of entrapment and isolation.
How are you feeling about the sentence, Mrs. Lane?
It took its toll, and horrified at what was unfolding, Kelly's parents closed ranks.
Bring your head up.
Why did you stay silent?
We're private people. How do you sort of manage to say, look, just would you please listen to anything we have to say? Because I just felt that, you know, they weren't interested in that anyway.
No.
So,
and it was probably further that you know, they bullied us, intimidated us.
But there was a missing child. Can you understand why there was such intense scrutiny?
Of course.
Well, of course, but not for it to be so lengthy.
How much of your anger is directed at Kelly for putting you in this situation?
None.
Well, none, because I've never thought of it.
No.
I've never thought of that.
We feel that, you know, we wish we weren't in this position, but it's happened. We can't change it, so all we can do is support her.
Welcome back to the program. It's been 5 years since Kelly Lane was sent to prison for murdering her baby Tegan. But the case still intrigues Australia, mostly because Tegan's body has never been found. Kelly's parents, Robert and Sandra, say that alone is cause to reopen the investigation. Another reason could be the witness you're about to meet, whose vital evidence the jury never heard.
I find that the offence was premeditated, but only for a short time. It was committed in a situation of desperation, arising from a sense of entrapment and isolation. In her mind, Kelly had nowhere to turn.
The years have wearied Sandra and Robert Lane. Thrust into the spotlight, they've watched as their only daughter was jailed for murdering a child they believe is still alive.
It's nice to sit down and relax, isn't it?
I reckon.
You put a lot of it out of your mind because you're thinking about it all the time. So you know, unless you walked in our shoes, you don't know what it's like.
I know it's been a long time, but it's very recent to
If
me.
I was 25 or 30, the bullets would bounce off. But as you get older, they don't bounce off as much. You know? No.
That's the other thing. Where did this policeman interview you?
Down at Manly.
At Manly Police Station?
Yeah.
Forensic criminologist Dr. Xanthi Mallet has been looking into Kelly's murder conviction for the past 2 years.
This might be Kelly. Hang on a second. I'm not saying that Kelly is innocent. I'm not saying she is guilty. All I'm saying is, if she is going to be in prison, let there be evidence for that, or let her out.
But she left hospital with a 2-day-old baby, and that baby has never been seen since. Isn't it a fair assumption that that child is dead?
We can't say that Tegan is dead because there's no body, so how can you be prosecuted for murder? There's no eyewitness. There's nothing to tie Kelly to committing any crime, bar the fact that we don't know where Tegan is.
After 5 years in prison, Kelly is almost unrecognisable. We catch a glimpse of the lean brunette training in the exercise yard. And the woman jailed as a callous child killer is desperate to get home to care for her teenage daughter.
To receive a phone call from an inmate at Darwinia Correctional Centre.
Hey Kelly, is that you?
Oh, hello.
Hey, how are you doing?
Hi.
You sound really teary today. You've got to talk to your daughter.
You know, we often talk about, Mum, do you think you'll come home? You think it'll be soon? And yeah, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart, and I worry how she's feeling and what she's thinking about, and sorry.
Do you think she was judged on the secret pregnancies, the adoptions,
Absolutely.
the lies?
Yeah, I think she was judged. It was what I would call trial by media. I think she was painted as a certain type of person, irresponsible. She made poor decisions. She'd lied to people.
But if she didn't kill Tegan, why tell so many lies?
I would say that just because you're a liar doesn't make you a murderess.
Dr. Mallet is one of several experts trying to have Kelly's case reviewed. Kelly has never wavered from her story that Tegan, who'd be turning 20 this year, is with her natural father, the mysterious Andrew.
Andrew Norris Morris exists because she told me about him at that time.
Natalie McCauley's explosive testimony backs up Kelly's story. Natalie works in child protection for the United Nations, but grew up with Kelly on Sydney's northern beaches.
Are you sure about the name Andrew Norris?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Same name as my brother.
How many times would his name have come up?
Oh, a number of times. Over maybe a 3-month period. It was the summer leading into the new year of 96.
How do you know that?
Because it was the time when all our 21sts were on.
That was 9 months before Tegan was born.
Yes. That's not a coincidence. That's not fanciful. She was telling her mate she was having a fling with someone at the exact time that Tegan would have been conceived.
Natalie's evidence that Andrew Norris exists and may have Tegan was never heard by the jury. She's critical of the police investigation.
They were at my house for 5.5 hours and they came up with a summary of a page and a half. And it was very skewed towards what their view was.
And that was what?
That Tegan had been killed. And had been killed because of Kelly's aspirations to be an Olympian, which is just absurd.
To this day, Natalie feels guilty for not noticing her friend's pregnancies and helping her.
I think of us back then and I wish that I could give that Kelly, the 21-year-old Kelly, a big cuddle to say, you know, you've got a lot of people here and we can help you. But we didn't know.
It's still emotional for you now, isn't it, talking about it?
Yeah. I feel like I let her down.
In what way?
Because she needed a friend. And if she had a friend that she could talk to, she wouldn't be where she is now.
Mm.
Natalie McCauley's evidence is a crucial part of the investigation by lawyer Michelle Reuters, who leads the Innocence Initiative at RMIT. The legal watchdog only takes on rare cases where they believe the conviction can be overturned.
One of the things I found really probably most extraordinary about Kelly Lane's case is that people find it easier to believe that a young mother would kill her child than they would believing that a father would accept responsibility for that child and disappear. We don't know if that's where we're going to end up, but that's certainly a real possibility on the facts.
So realistically, what are Kelly's chances of having her guilty verdict overturned?
Realistically, the possibilities of having some sort of review, I think would have to be good.
Kelly Lane didn't give evidence at her trial in 2010, and it's something she now regrets.
So if you went back to a retrial, would you speak now? Would you talk? Would you tell? Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. I want to be heard. And I want to be heard in full.
I love her and I would stand by her no matter what. But I wouldn't be sitting here saying that I think her story is truthful if I didn't think it was truthful.
Kelly is fighting to get home to her child. In the meantime, Robert and Sandra are helping to raise their granddaughter, desperate to see Kelly free before it's too late for them.
It'd be wonderful. Whether it's next week or in years to come, that's what we're waiting for.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that some people had a poor view about my daughter, might change their view or might give it some more thought. And we hope that by doing this, it'll support any action being taken at the moment to have the matter looked at again.
No doubt you've heard how Daniela Dawes suffocated, killed her autistic son Jason. You probably have an opinion on the court's decision to let her go free. But there's much more to this family tragedy. For a start, there are the revealing home videos of a very troubled child. But as you'll see, a child who could be cheerful and loving too. Then there's Jason's father, a grieving, angry and bitter man. And always in the background, the unimaginable burden of caring for a child with autism. All clues in this intriguing story of what drove Daniela Dawes to kill her little boy.
I have to live with what happened on August 4, but it's very hard to comprehend that the person that I am ever did such a thing. I miss him so much every day. I wish he was here, and it is so wrong that he's not and I am.
This is home video of Daniela Dawes' son Jason, the little boy she suffocated to death in the family home last year.
I cannot forgive what she has done.
Do you think she should be in prison today?
I believe anybody in Australia who takes a life should go to prison. My wife should be in prison.
In thousands of homes around Australia, this is the reality of living with an autistic child. How long could you cope?
No.
It's chaos. It's very chaotic. My day might start at 1 a.m. On a good day, it's about 5 a.m.
Is it every minute of every day?
Yeah. Yep. From the minute you wake up till the minute you fall asleep in your bed until the minute you're woken up again. It's totally full on.
Aidan Fasanella has severe autism. He's 7, but he has the mental age of a tiny child. Aidan is unable to talk. He's trapped in an often frightening world of his own. His life dominated by bizarre habits and endless repetition.
Because to play for Australia...
It's lonely, it's hard, it's all those things. Time for trampoline.
Desiree Fasanella is a single mum living just above the poverty line. Raising Aidan has been an exhausting, relentless battle for her. Have you ever been in a place where you've thought, I can't do this anymore?
Oh, every day. Every day, yes. Oh, yeah. I just can't do this at this level anymore, you know. Mm. But then, you know, you sort of get through the day and another day starts, and just look for the small positives wherever they might come, and dwell on that.
There is enormous stress. The divorce rate is very high. The depression rate is very, very high. The effect that it has on siblings is devastating. So in personal terms, it's horrendous. At the moment, it's really just building up his vocabulary.
Professor Tony Atwood is a world authority on autism, and all too often the Brisbane psychologist sees families devastated by this chronic disability.
Great.
He says there's simply not enough government support.
It is a burden to have a child with autism, but it is unfortunately made far worse by the system. The parents shouldn't have to fight the system. The system should be there to support them. They have enough to do with their child with autism.
Autism and related conditions affect almost 1 in 100 children in Australia. Now, I'm sure you'd agree that's an alarming statistic. But judging by how much importance our politicians place on treating this condition, you wouldn't think so. Waiting lists for services are endless, and when treatment does become available, it's often too little, too late.
I have to accept responsibility. They were my hands, they were nobody else's. But that wasn't me that day, and there were a lot of things that pushed me to the point where I cracked.
Okay, Jane.
Jason Dawes could be a happy, loving boy.
You.
But joy could quickly turn to frustration and anger. This 10-year-old child needed round-the-clock care.
Jason couldn't talk. Jason couldn't get dressed on his own. He couldn't get his own food. He wore a nappy to poo. He couldn't brush his own teeth. He couldn't say goodnight. It wasn't easy.
Okay, family photo.
By August last year, Daniela had reached breaking point. Her marriage of 18 years was falling apart. Her father had just died of cancer. She was deeply depressed. All this on top of Jason's autism. On the morning of August 4, she snapped.
He was playing. I, being in a depressed state, wasn't really up for playing. And I remember he ran off, and I know I followed him into the rumpus room, and then it was just something that was all happening before my eyes. I had no control over what was happening that day. I was watching it and feeling very helpless. It's really hard.
Did you realise what you were doing?
I think I did, but I just had no control over what was happening. It was like being on autopilot. I really, it wasn't a conscious thing that was happening.
There's no question you had terrible problems. You had no support, you had major depression. But does that justify killing your son?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
A detective came over and told me that there was a little boy inside the house. And at that stage I knew my wife had taken my son's life.
Nearly a year on, Jason's father, Craig Dawes, is still struggling with the shock of what he encountered at the family home on that August afternoon.
The fact is, my wife held my son down, placed a hand over his nose and mouth, and held him there until he did not struggle anymore. And there is absolutely no way my son did not struggle.
Daniela Dawes pleaded guilty to manslaughter, but 2 weeks ago she walked free with a 5-year good behaviour bond. In court, Craig Dawes pleaded that his wife not be jailed. But in the aftermath of her trial, he has changed his mind. He says she should be doing time.
Well, I was still in love with my wife the day before this happened, and there is love there for my wife, but the deed she has done and the pain she has caused has blocked out a lot of that love for my wife. I used to bring Jason down here and play in the afternoons. I miss my son a lot. I cry each night. I wish he was with me.
Just how bitter and divided the Dawes family has become was all too apparent as we filmed this story. Daniela left Sydney with their daughter and took out an apprehended violence order against Craig. The bottom line is your family is ripping itself apart.
I would just like to have a bit of peace, place my son's ashes, which are at my house, in a place of rest somewhere, and get on with the rest of my life. To go through a loss like this and have it turned around that I now have an AVO on me, what more does my wife want to extract from me?
Ready? Which one is horse? Oh, you remembered too. Well done.
What both Craig and Daniela Dawes do still agree on is that Jason never got the professional care he needed to learn even the most basic of skills. His condition demanded at least 20 hours of therapy a week, but he was lucky to get 3. And to get even that took constant begging from government agencies.
Fighting the battle on my own was very difficult, especially when I was on the phone all day, ringing one department to the next and nobody would help me, and they pass you along.
So it was tough?
Yeah, it was very tough. Eventually it wore me away.
When you heard what had happened to Jason, what was your reaction?
I know she wouldn't have come to that decision without enormous heartbreak over a long period of time. And so my heart went out to her.
Did it surprise you?
No. I think that the pain and despair that she was going through, and also for Jason too, meant how on earth could she continue with that pain and death, both for Jason and herself, was the only way to end the pain.
Professor Tony Atwood examined Jason when he was 3. His advice to Daniela and Craig was that Jason needed immediate therapy. And as they struggled to get that therapy from dozens of different health services, he saw their growing despair. Is it as simple as saying, if he'd had early intervention, may have been a different story?
I think it would have been a different story. He had a personality, and I think behind the behaviour was an intellect that I thought we could work on.
There was potential?
Oh yes, definitely.
While there is no cure for autism, it can be managed.
Because he gets trapped in those autistic mannerisms.
But it needs a whole range of different treatments: speech therapy, occupational therapy and specialised education.
Oh, and that's a number 2. And so by early intervention, programs that teach all those sorts of skills that that person needs, the brain can, in a way, almost repair itself to a certain degree. The politicians need to recognise that autism is here. We think it may be increasing, and that if you invest in early intervention, you save in the long term by turning someone potentially from a sponge for taxpayers' money to an actual taxpayer.
Wait. What does Aiden need?
For Desiree Fasanella, the pressures of caring for an autistic child finally destroyed her marriage. And for much of Aiden's life, she's had to struggle on alone.
He's big, he's loud, he's cute, he's funny, he's a handful, he's just a dynamo. And he's really difficult to manage. But I love him. When Mr. Crickety came, he played a silly game, and all the kids in the street, they like to do the same.
Does the future frighten you?
Yes, very much, because he doesn't have a great future, and I'll be his carer till the day I die.
Daniela Dawes will carry the burden of what she did till the day she dies. While the daily battles have ended, there can be no peace.
Every time I see a photo of Jason, I know it's my fault he's not here. And that's really hard.
Do you ever feel you'd still like to be with him?
Yes, every day. Every single day. I don't care how hard it is. It was very special.
In a UK courtroom late last year, Melbourne woman Gemma Mitchell was found guilty of a despicable crime. The 38-year-old murdered her friend, chopped up her body, stuffed it into a suitcase and dumped it near a remote English beach. The evidence against the Australian was overwhelming. Multiple CCTV cameras showed Mitchell wheeling the suitcase around London. But there's a twist. Mitchell's mother now claims her daughter is innocent and a terrible miscarriage of justice has occurred. Hilary Collard says she knows because she saw what was really packed into the suitcase. You wouldn't know it at first glance, but you are watching a murderer in action. People walking the streets of London with luggage isn't an uncommon sight, but what Gemma Mitchell's carrying in this particular case is not just unusual, it's downright disturbing. The Australian woman has just cut up her friend and is on her way to dump the body.
Despicable. Very sad. I don't use the word evil very often, but for someone like Gemma Mitchell, I think it's probably a fairly apt description.
The victim was her friend from a church group, Mi Kuen Chong, known as Deborah. It might seem an open and shut case, but this brazen murder has now taken an entirely bewildering turn, with the killer's mum mounting an extraordinary bid to have the conviction overturned.
In the eyes of the law, your daughter is a murderer.
Yeah, I know.
Do you believe she's a killer?
No. Definitely not. There is just no two ways about it. Gemma is innocent.
But tonight, we expose the damning evidence that saw this 38-year-old jailed for life, as her former friends in Australia reveal the signs that evil was lurking all along.
Did you get the sense Gemma was troubled?
Yes, I did. Obviously, the eyes, they never lie. And something with Gemma, that's probably the most relevant thing that always comes to me. The eyes, they never lie.
It mightn't be much to look at, but this dilapidated house in northwest London is both the reason Gemma Mitchell packed her bags for England and her motivation for murder. First, let's deal with the relocation. Back in 2015, the Melbourne woman moved here so she could be closer to her mum, Hilary Collard.
What kind of girl was she?
She was lovely. She was adorable. They've made her out to be a monster. She is the kindest. She would do anything for her grandparents. She just adored them. Look what has been left here. And it's a bedroom.
The house they called home was worth an eye-watering $7 million. Yet still, money was a huge issue for Hilary and her daughter. They urgently needed cash because the property was falling apart and needed extensive repair work. Gemma wanted to help with reconstruction costs, but couldn't contribute financially because she wasn't licensed to operate in the UK as an osteopath, so was out of work. Instead, she offered to become a spiritual healer for a woman she recently befriended at church, Deborah Chong, who was battling several health issues.
The victim here was quite a vulnerable woman. She was very vulnerable, absolutely. Eccentric, but pleasant, friendly. She had lots of problems in her life.
Stuart Gibbon is a former British detective and says Gemma Mitchell was not helping Deborah out of the goodness of her heart. Eventually, she convinced her new friend to give her $350,000 to help with building costs at the family home. But at the last minute, Deborah reneged. Investigators say this was Gemma's motivation for murder. She was enraged, and Deborah was fearful, even sending her a text message saying, "Until you've sold the house, I don't want you to come to me. I'm stressed to my core." 3 days later, Deborah disappeared.
It's just a catastrophe. And one which is motivated by greed and by a person who just, if she wants everything and if she can't have it, she'll get it somehow.
The first thing Gemma does after the murder is try to cover her tracks, making several calls to missing persons agencies, feigning concern for her supposed friend. But then came the major breakthrough. investigators uncovering CCTV footage that showed what Gemma had really been up to. It's extraordinarily naive in a city like London to not realise you're going to be caught by so many CCTV cameras.
It's hugely naive. Most capital cities in the world have got lots of cameras. London, I think, is probably the second highest after China. There's something like 950,000 cameras in London. If you were to go out in London somewhere and wander around, the average person would probably be captured about 70 times on a camera somewhere. There are just cameras everywhere. So CCTV evidence really is kind of overwhelming because you've not just got her on camera, which is indisputable, but you've also got her actions.
On the morning of June 11, Gemma is captured leaving the family home just after 6 a.m. with a suitcase. Half an hour later, she's seen several streets away in a different outfit, plus a beanie and face mask, heading towards Deborah's house. At 1 p.m, she's seen leaving Deborah's property with a distinctly heavier case. She spends 3 hours carrying the luggage through suburban London before returning to her home just after 4 p.m. 15 days later, Gemma hires a Volvo SUV and is seen on camera again, struggling to load the suitcase into the vehicle. That night, her car is filmed driving down a remote road 3 hours from London, and it's from here that police get a call from a concerned member of the public the very next day.
Emergency. Hi, I just found a body. Oh, go ahead, caller. What's your emergency? I just found a body. Right, okay. A body, is it? Are they breathing? No, they're dead. They look like they've possibly been there like a few days or something, with some flies and stuff. Right, okay. Bear with me a second.
The missing persons case became a homicide investigation, with police setting up a crime scene in the town of Salcombe in Devon, southwest England. Soon after, detectives obtained the critical CCTV footage showing Gemma Mitchell near the victim's house and where the body was dumped. Not long after, she was arrested.
Gemma, do you want to come out? Yeah, sure. All right. Hand just over to your hands. All right, Gemma, at this moment, I'm arresting you on suspicion of murder. Okay, you don't have to say anything, but you may have a defence. Do you want to mention one question, something which you later rely in court? Anything you do say may be given evidence, okay? Once you're in your cuffs. Am I allowed to? I'll go explain everything to you. Okay? Should I get some shoes on?
If police knock on your door and you've genuinely had nothing to do with the crime, I feel like you'd say to them, oh, sorry, what are you arresting me for? But in this case, Gemma just says, oh, yeah, I'll go get my shoes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that
I agree with you. I know what my reaction would be if somebody come and arrested me for murder. My first question would be, who am I supposed to have murdered? And secondly, can you tell me a bit more about this? And I'd be pretty angry and upset and distraught about it as well. It's all matter of fact. And then it's, can I put my shoes on? And, you know, all very matter of fact, almost like, you know, well, there we go. You know, it's one of those things.
The person driving the Volvo.
Back at the station, Gemma doesn't cooperate with the investigation, particularly questions about the hire car she took to Devon.
The car stank, didn't it, Gemma?
No comment.
Stunk of a dead person.
No comments.
Stunk of Deborah's decomposing body. Is that right, Gemma?
No.
But in spite of the mountain of evidence against her, Gemma's mum Hilary is adamant her daughter isn't responsible for the killing, and you won't believe her bizarre theory for what really happened.
Gemma will be very upset to think that you think that she is definitely a murderer. She'll be very upset about that.
A lot of history has been made at London's criminal court, the Old Bailey, dating back to the 1500s. And last year, Melbourne woman Gemma Mitchell made history here of her own, becoming the first woman to have her sentencing broadcast live on television, convicted of murdering her friend Deborah Chong.
The sentence of the court is one of life imprisonment
and the minimum term of imprisonment that you will, in any event, be required to serve will be 34 years. You have shown absolutely no remorse, and it appears that you are in complete denial as to what you did.
And it appears she's not the only one in complete denial. How do you think Deborah died?
She either committed suicide or she tripped over and couldn't get up. That's what we reckon happened.
Hilary Collard is Gemma's mother and refuses to believe her daughter is a killer, despite so much evidence pointing to that being the case. A jury found Gemma had used a suitcase to help dispose of her victim Deborah Chong's body. But Hilary claims to have seen the contents of Gemma's luggage with her own eyes. And this is where things get truly bizarre.
I saw what went in that suitcase. I didn't see her put it actually into the car, but I saw she had like 3 bottles of 5 kilo waters. She had tins in case she wanted to stop to eat something. She had a deck chair. She had a sun umbrella.
All in the suitcase?
Yeah, that's it. It was like she squashed what she could in the suitcase.
And so why was she going to Devon? What did she tell you?
She just said she wants to go to Devon. I mean, it's a shame I wasn't with her.
You say you saw Gemma pack her suitcase to go to Salcombe that day. Have you ever worried that perhaps you might be charged as an accessory to this murder or somehow being complicit in it all?
No, because I've had nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing to do with it. I mean, I saw the suitcase when she came back from Deborah's house, when she was supposed to have murdered her, and all there was in it was a saucepan, some kitchen utensils, there was some towels, there were tins, there were books. They were all heavy things, but there wasn't a body in there.
If you go by the police version of events here and what the court found, you're lying.
The police are completely corrupt.
There's CCTV footage of Gemma driving down the very street where Deborah's body was found. Do you think this is just the greatest coincidence in the history of mankind?
Exactly.
Disturbingly, when Deborah's body was discovered, she had been surgically decapitated. Interestingly, on the website for Gemma's old osteopathy business in Melbourne, she detailed how she studied at the prestigious King's College in London, where she learned how to dissect human cadavers.
When I first met Gemma, or when she first come along, she gave me a bit of a feel of the movie The Hand That Rocks the Cradle with Rebecca De Mornay. It's about that neighbour who you probably can't fully trust 150% and maybe just gives you a little bit of a vibe.
To get a proper understanding of this killer's mindset, we need to go back a few years to when she called Melbourne home.
We welcomed Gemma into our home. We got to know Gemma pretty well. Over time, I guess we kind of picked up that she was having some issues.
Right, okay.
Nick Novachevsky lived opposite Gemma in the suburb of Altona North, but after a few years, she decided to sell up and move to London. Nick says financial issues always brought out the worst in Gemma, and these were a big factor when she decided to leave town. Did you get the sense Gemma was troubled?
Yes, I did. You know, sometimes I could just see her drift off, the best way to describe it, particularly when she was down. She looked down.
Did she tell you why she was selling?
She was very stressed.
So was the stress money?
The stress was money. The stress was all about finances.
Back in England, police are convinced money was the motivation for Gemma Mitchell to kill her friend Deborah Chong as well. She's now serving life behind bars, but her mum Hilary is visiting her regularly in prison and says she's planning an appeal. There's not much stronger in life than a mother's love. Is it possible that you just are incapable of believing that your daughter is a killer?
She's not a killer. I know she's not. I mean, I know you don't believe me, but I'm telling you that Gemma did not commit this crime.
For the family of Deborah to hear all these details, both during the police investigation and afterwards during the court case, is just... you just can't imagine it. It's just so awful.
For veteran detective Stuart Gibbon, there's only one victim in all of this, and it sure as hell isn't Gemma Mitchell. He hopes her mother, Hilary Collard, can come to her senses soon. Gemma and her mum are adamant that she is innocent and that this is a miscarriage of justice. Do you think that is plausible?
I don't think there's any chance of it being a miscarriage of justice. As I say, the evidence is overwhelming, and it's probably one of the strongest cases I've seen in many a year. When you put it all together, the jury deliberated for 7 hours, which for a murder case really isn't very long. 7 hours is a very, very short period of time for a jury to deliberate over what was a particularly grotesque murder.
Jessica Wongso and Myrna Salihin had been best friends for years after first meeting in Sydney when they were at college. But if you believe the police case, Jessica resented Myrna and was so jealous of her life, she planned and then carried out a most awful crime. In January, at an upmarket cafe in Jakarta, she's accused of spiking Myrna's iced coffee with cyanide and then calmly watching her beautiful friend take her last gasps of breath. Myrna's death was recorded on CCTV, which is now being used as evidence in a sensational court case that might end with one more death. If found guilty, Jessica Wongso could face a firing squad. It's gritty CCTV footage, but watch carefully and witness a calculated murder as it happens. Wealthy Indonesian socialite Myrna Salihin drinks cyanide-laced iced coffee and collapses within minutes. In a packed, trendy Jakarta cafe. Calmly watching on, seemingly without a care in the world, is Jessica Wongso, her Australian friend who was accused of spiking Myrna's drink and deliberately killing her. Myrna's twin sister, Sandy, is still grief-stricken.
Still, till this day, we can't believe she's gone, just so quickly, just like that. It's just, how do you say this?
Cruel.
Yeah, it's cruel.
This is Indonesia's trial of the century. They're a nation obsessed. I count 25 to 30 cameras in this courtroom alone, covering the trial live 12 to 15 hours a day. What they want to know is what the judges up there have to decide. Did Jessica Wongso murder her friend Myrna Salihin? Hello, Jessica. We're from Australian TV.
Hi.
How's the trial going?
Yeah, it's been going okay, but I can't really say anything right now.
I understand. Do you know who murdered Myrna? Do you have any ideas about who murdered
No, I
Myrna?
have no clue.
Top Indonesian anchor Timothy Marbun hosts the live Jessica Wongso trial show on Compass TV.
Anda kembali dalam program khusus sidang pembunuhan Myrna.
This is like a CSI case. You have to prove this scientifically, and this has changed into a TV drama. I mean, when you watch a movie, when the villain is that good, you don't even want them to die.
But die she might. If she's found guilty, Jessica may face death by firing squad.
I would like to see justice for my sister and eye for an eye. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's life for life.
it's absolutely crazy what's happening to Jess Wong So.
It all began 8 years ago in Australia, here in the shadow of Sydney's Harbour Bridge. Jessica and Myrna met while studying at the Billy Blue Design College in North Sydney, along with friends James Money and Paui Sasastro. Does it strike you that she's the sort of person who's capable of murder?
Yeah, it was really surprising actually. Yeah, it's a completely different polar kind of attitude from what I remember.
I mean, the Jessica we knew was very bubbly and very goofy.
While Jessica and Myrna were close at college, after graduating, Jessica became an Australian resident and stayed working in Sydney. But Myrna moved back to Indonesia with her boyfriend, Arif Samako. What drew you to her?
I think she's the most wonderful person I have ever met, because she has an amazing outlook in life.
2 years ago, Myrna holidayed in Sydney and caught up with Jessica. But the two women clashed when Myrna gave Jessica frank advice to dump her then Australian boyfriend.
Myrna is very upfront when telling off people, and sometimes it can be a bit harsh. So I think it went like this. Why are you so stupid? Why do you want to date this guy? I mean, what about your future? But apparently after telling that to Jessica, Jessica just went quiet and then left Myrna in the restaurant.
Did she ever say to you or to anyone that she had reason to fear? Jessica?
After that meeting, she grew a fear of Jessica. Like, she don't want to meet her face to face, just the two of them. She wants someone to accompany her.
It seems that confrontation led to increasingly bizarre and worrying behaviour by Jessica. She was hospitalised 5 times last year after trying to commit suicide.
The 26-year-old ploughed into a Leichhardt nursing home only metres from the bedrooms of dozens of elderly residents.
In August, she crashed her car into this Sydney nursing home.
With cracked ribs and a sore chest, she was taken to Royal Prince Alfred Hospital. Police of the opinion she'd been drinking.
Soon after, her friend Myrna married Arif in Bali. He now thinks their fairy tale wedding sent Jessica into a jealous rage.
Because Myrna grew cautious of Jessica, we didn't invite her to the wedding.
Do you think that that's a plausible motive for her wanting to kill Myrna?
For me, right now, I think it's like a chain reaction.
Just days after the wedding, back in Sydney, Jessica Wongso is sacked from her graphic design job with New South Wales Ambulance. She returns home to Jakarta.
I think she's jealous of Myrna. She's jealous of Myrna because maybe Myrna have a good life and she doesn't.
She's married a lovely man.
She just married, and she have a good future ahead of her, and maybe Jessica's life is crap.
As soon as Jessica Wongso returns, she invites Myrna Salihin to catch up with her and another Australian college friend, Hani Juwita. On the 6th of January this year, they agree to meet up at Olivier, a swish cafe here in an upmarket Jakarta shopping centre. Oddly, Jessica messages her friends hours before, insisting she pre-orders their drinks.
She said that, hey, I'm gonna buy you girls drinks. And everybody said, why buy us drinks? No, you don't have to. Instead, I want to.
If what the police say is correct, she went into that cafe that day and organised that meeting solely for the purpose of murdering your sister?
I think so.
Which is an incredible thing to do.
Yeah. And a scary thing, too.
Jessica's arrival at the cafe is caught on CCTV at 3:30 p.m, more than 90 minutes before her friends eventually get there. But strangely, shortly after arriving, Jessica leaves the restaurant, she says, to buy presents for her two friends. She returns with 3 large bags, each containing just a tiny bottle of liquid soap.
She took a moment to go around the restaurant or the cafe, looking at the CCTV and looking at her table.
Police believe Jessica was ensuring that the restaurant's CCTV cameras wouldn't pick up what she was about to do. Now, the camera behind her was obscured by this vegetation. But there's another camera on the other side of the restaurant with a clear view onto Jessica's table. And it's what she does next that raises the gravest of suspicions. She picks up the 3 large shopping bags and places them on the table, obscuring that camera's view.
She didn't just put the bags and leave them there, but she put the bags, she sat there, and then she moved it, just a little bit there, and you could see that in the CCTV.
About an hour before her friends arrive, Jessica orders an iced coffee and 2 other drinks, which arrive at 4:24 p.m. If you believe the police case, you are now watching a murder unfold. This is when they say she laced Myrna's drink with cyanide. On the CCTV, do you see, while she's waiting, any movement by Jessica Wongso behind the bags when the iced coffee is delivered before her friends arrive?
She was moving some of the things on the table, so we can't really see it all because of the paper bags that she put there. But there are movements of her actually moving the coffee cup. There are movements of that.
The CCTV shows Myrna and Hani arrive at 5:16 p.m. The iced coffee has now been on the table for 52 minutes. Within seconds of sitting down, Myrna takes a sip of the iced coffee.
Right after that sip, you could see on the CCTV that she was kind of irritated of something from the drink.
How soon?
Right after.
Seconds?
Seconds. Just right after she took the drink. And you could see that at that instance, she went to Hani and showed like, hey, you want to try this drink? And then she moved that drink to Jessica, also giving the same gesture. So you could see this, and just in a couple of minutes, you could see her flapping her hands in front of her face as if there's some smell or something. And then another minute, her head's thrown back. And that was probably the last movement she ever gave.
Myrna Salehin has collapsed in the upmarket Jakarta cafe, Olivier, after sipping on cyanide-laced coffee. It's her supposed friend, Jessica Wongso, who bought the drink for her. And she's the first to make the accusation that there's something wrong with the coffee.
She said to the manager, "What did you put on the coffee? What did you put on the coffee that made her like this?"
It was like very awful.
The restaurant manager, Devi Siagian, confirms Jessica's accusation put her on her guard. What made you suspicious that day?
She said, what you put inside the drink. That's why I saved the drinks.
No one knew it at the time, but by keeping the iced coffee, Devi provides the most vital piece of evidence in the case. Myrna's husband, Arif Samako, gets a frantic phone call.
Honey called me, like, she sound panic on the phone. She said, Myrna is having seizures. Foam is starting to come out from her mouth. So after hearing she panicked, I panicked as well.
We thought she was epilepsy. Nobody thought she was poisoning. And she's not doing anything. Jessica was not doing anything.
She didn't look distressed?
No.
She was not crying. She was the only person is not crying.
They rush Myrna to hospital, but tragically, it's too late. She's dead. But even now, no one thinks it's murder. And despite her odd behaviour, Jessica isn't searched. If the restaurant manager hadn't kept the original drink, Jessica might have got away with it, mightn't she?
Yeah, I think she's going to get away with it if she haven't kept the drink.
3 days after Myrna dies, police confirm the iced coffee contains a lethal dose of cyanide, and they finally start investigating Jessica Wongso. This footage taken at Myrna's funeral shows an uncomfortable-looking Jessica. Within weeks, she's charged with murder. But Myrna's sister Sandy still can't believe how happy Jessica appeared to be about it.
I think she's enjoying the attention. I think she likes the attention because she doesn't have that, maybe.
And the irony is that this case, this wretched murder case, whether she's found guilty or not, she's now at the centre of everybody's attention.
Yeah, and I think she's enjoying the media.
The Indonesian police look to Sydney for clues about Jessica's past. They interview her former boss for 9 hours. She's Christy Carter, the head of media and marketing at New South Wales Ambulance.
She doesn't get any.
It's key evidence in the murder trial, as this reconstruction shows.
I've observed her for the past 8 months, and from her attitude, hatred, and nature of her craziness, I have no doubt that she is capable of hurting or killing another person.
In a damning admission, Christie tells Indonesian police that Jessica once admitted to knowing how to use poison to kill. It happened when she was in hospital recovering from one of her suicide attempts.
I visited her. She said, I want to go home. They're treating me like I killed someone. If I wanted to kill someone, I'd know exactly the right dose.
Just 2 months before Myrna's death, Christie receives a death threat.
Jessica threatened me by saying, you have to die, and your mum should die too.
Christie's interview is just part of a dossier on Jessica Wongso collected by the Australian Federal Police and handed over to their Indonesian counterparts. Australian Federal Police only cooperated with the Indonesian police on the promise that a guilty Jessica Wongso would not be sent to the firing squad. But the judges here have made it clear they don't see themselves as being bound by any such undertaking. Jessica Wongso's wealthy family has hired top celebrity defence lawyer Otto Hasibuan. He's making much of autopsy results showing no cyanide was found in any of Myrna's organs other than her stomach.
A teaspoon is enough to be potentially lethal.
But one of the world's top toxicologists, Australian Professor Ian White from Newcastle's Calvary Mater Hospital, says that's not at all unusual. So the fact that there is no cyanide found in the heart, brain, lungs or liver 3 days afterwards doesn't indicate there was no cyanide used to murder that person.
Well, you've still got to explain the cyanide in the stomach. You've got cyanide in the drink, you've got cyanide in the stomach, you've got someone who collapses in a way that cyanide causes. I'm a very simple man. I can't think of anything else.
To this day, the Indonesian police can't explain how Jessica might have got the cyanide.
There's one big missing link there. There is no cyanide on her. There is no instance of her putting anything in the drink. She did touch the drink. She did move the drink. But moving a drink doesn't kill anyone.
Just last week, Jessica finally had her chance to give evidence after 3 months of hearings. Can you explain the cyanide in the drink? Do you
No, I have no idea.
Did you put it there?
No, of course not.
Okay, well, I hope your trial is a fair one.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. A verdict is expected later this month. For the Salahin family, the marathon hearing and the growing doubts raised by the defence have taken a heavy toll. Someone murdered Myrna barely 10 months ago, and they desperately want answers.
It's just so hard for me. She got so much a future ahead of her. She just got married, and
It's been robbed.
it is. It's been robbed, and it's not fair for her.
Welcome back. Jessica Wongso and Myrna Salahin were best friends, young women who first met each other while they were studying in Sydney. But in January this year, in an upmarket cafe in Jakarta, Myrna died after drinking an iced coffee laced with cyanide. Jessica was accused of murder and for the last 4 months has been the star of an extraordinary trial that's mesmerised all of Indonesia. Now there's a verdict in this bizarre case. Guilty. Inside a packed Jakarta courtroom, the wait is finally over.
Demikian sidang pada hari ini dinyatakan selesai dan ditutup.
On Thursday, former New South Wales Ambulance Service employee Jessica Wongso was found guilty of murdering her fellow Indonesian close friend Myrna Salahin. The 3 trial judges described her crime as a cruel and sadistic murder fuelled by jealousy. When we spoke to Jessica in Jakarta only weeks ago, she denied any involvement in Myrna's death. Hello, Jessica. We're from Australian TV.
Hi.
How's the trial going?
Yeah, it's been going okay, but I can't really say anything right now.
I understand. Do you know who murdered Myrna? Do you have any ideas about who murdered Myrna?
No, I have no clue.
But this security camera vision was Jessica's undoing. The judges accepted these pictures capture her at the very moment she spiked her friend Myrna's iced coffee with a deadly dose of cyanide. A brazen crime executed in a packed cafe. Can you explain the cyanide in the drink? Do you think?
No, I have no idea.
Did you put it there?
No, of course not.
Every step of the trial gripped the nation.
Anda kembali dalam program khusus sidang pembunuhan Myrna.
Tim Marbin hosted the rolling coverage for Compass TV.
Right after that sip, you could see on the CCTV that she was kind of irritated of something from the drink.
How soon?
Right after.
Seconds.
Seconds. just right after she took the drink. So you could see this, and just in a couple of minutes, you could see her flapping her hands in front of her face as if there's some smell or something. And then another minute, her head's thrown back. And that was probably the last movement she ever gave.
As for the motive, the judges agreed with Myrna's twin sister, Sandy.
I think she's jealous of Myrna. She's jealous of Myrna because maybe Myrna have a good life and she doesn't.
She's married a lovely man.
She just married, and she have a good future ahead of her, and maybe Jessica's life is crap.
On Thursday, Jessica was lucky to escape the firing squad. Instead, sentenced to 20 years in prison. That's less than what Myrna's family had hoped for.
I would like to see justice for my sister and eye for an eye. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's life for life.
As she has done throughout the trial, Jessica Wongso kept a smile on her face during the verdict hearing. After the guilty verdict, Jessica again remained composed, telling the judges she doesn't accept the verdict and she will appeal. It further infuriated Myrna's grief-stricken family.
It's just so hard for me. She got so much a future ahead of her. She just got married, and
It's been robbed.
it is. It's been robbed, and it's not fair for her.
First tonight, the story of Belinda Van Evil. She's been dubbed Belinda Van Evil, and for good reason. You see, her life reads like a rap sheet of horror. She ordered the execution of her father. She nearly stabbed to death the man she loved. And then there's her brother, the serial killer. Now, after 2 stints in prison, Belinda is once again a free woman, trying to start over. Belinda Van Evil. One of Australia's most notorious criminals is out and about. Just weeks after being released from maximum security jail.
I like them.
I don't mind
Actually,
them.
yeah. So what are you enjoying most about being out?
Meeting people.
Yeah.
Getting out, going shopping.
So normal things.
Yeah, you know, you've really got to appreciate life because anything can happen.
And what has happened in Belinda Van Evil's life is almost unbelievable. A life defined by violence, abuse, and murder. The question is whether at 34 she can finally turn it all around.
You've been called Belinda Van Evil.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you are? Are you evil?
No, of course I'm not.
Your brother's a serial killer, you had your father murdered, and you almost stabbed your boyfriend to death. That's a pretty strong rap sheet, isn't it?
Maybe.
What do you mean, maybe?
To some it might be.
To understand Belinda Van Evil the woman, you need to understand Belinda the little girl. And in particular, her relationship with her older brother Mark. A convicted murderer, he's the youngest person ever to be sent to Supermax, Australia's highest security prison.
Tell me about Mark, your brother, the person you know.
I love my brother.
Is it tough talking about your brother?
Very.
I could see you getting upset about it.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because he's a good person.
Do you think that's the image most people have of him?
Oh, it doesn't bother me what other people think. I know my brother and I know he's a good person.
Mark and Belinda grew up near Wollongong, south of Sydney. Raised by their father Jack after their mother walked out when Belinda was just 2 and Mark only 3. For years, Jack was violent to his children, and their hatred of him sits at the centre of the gruesome Van Evil tale.
What type of things would your father do to you?
He'd beat me every day. I thought he would kill me. Every day I lived in fear. I thought I was dead. He would end up killing me. He was a sadist, I believe. He got off on what he did, and it wasn't going to stop.
And how was he towards your brother?
Worse. The abuse was worse.
Do you think that everything that's happened in your life that is bad stems from this abuse that you speak of?
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
I don't know, it's just the ultimate dysfunctional family. I'm just horrified to see that how much evil can come out of this group.
It reads like a horror story, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. It's your worst nightmare. These are the walls of the homicide squad.
Detective Inspector Russell Oxford knows the Van Evils better than anyone.
It certainly was down in Wollongong. It was the biggest show in town.
Back in 1998, he was a young detective investigating 2 sickening murders. A couple of weeks apart, both in Wollongong. The victims were 63-year-old David O'Hearn, a quiet shopkeeper, and Frank Arkell, former Lord Mayor of Wollongong, who was facing pedophile charges.
I don't mind saying it, that the town was in fear, because in their midst they got a bloke who's brutally murdered 2 men.
And you didn't know if or when he'd strike again.
Exactly. Exactly.
4 months later, as police were closing in on 19-year-old Mark Van Evil, to their surprise, he handed himself in and confessed to the grisly killings.
Is there any reason why you did it?
Why I killed David Owen? Not really, no. I mean, I was angry that day, but no particular reason, no.
Well, why did you go to his house?
Just, I had in my mind that I wanted to kill someone that day. Bang, hit him on the head, and he slumped down there, and he slumped like that.
Well, so down.
This is Mark calmly talking Detective Oxford through his crime scenes.
What was the purpose of washing the blood off his head?
I was gonna keep his skull as a trophy, but then no, said stuff it.
His mild manner seemed to defy Mark's thirst for violence.
Down like that.
And how many times do you think you hit him?
40 plus times.
More than 40 times?
Your brother bashed Mr. O'Hearn to death. He then mutilated his body.
Mm-hmm.
He even cut his head off as a trophy.
Well, I don't think he kept it as a trophy.
He cut his head off though, Belinda.
Yeah.
He used his victim's severed hand as a paintbrush to write satanic writings on the wall.
Yep.
In blood.
Yep.
Does it scare you what your brother did?
No, not at all.
Mutilate.
Why
chop
would
off
that
a head,
scare me?
Sever a hand. It would scare most people.
Well, that's okay.
It scares me.
Fair enough. Understandably, that's okay. But I can't understand that because I'm not seeing it from outside the picture. I'm his sister.
Again, the reason behind that, why did you do that?
I don't know. It's just, why did I do the whole thing? I don't know.
This is a book called The A to Z of Serial Killers.
An encyclopedia of serial killers.
Detective Oxford gained some insight into Mark's twisted mind through one of his most treasured possessions.
Throughout the book you'll find his ramblings and his writings, but most bizarrely, is the opening page when he talks about who he's going to kill next, who's going to be my next victim. Quite clearly you can see his father's name there.
Jack Van Crevel. And look, this is what blows my mind, Belinda Van Crevel, that she's on his list. Because she adores her brother.
Yeah. I was actually taken aback by that too, because I couldn't understand why he would do that.
To find out that her brother wanted her dead.
Yeah, it's chilling, isn't it?
Mm. Belinda knew nothing about Mark's hit list. And she knew nothing of the bombshell Mark would drop at his trial. The claim that he was repeatedly raped by his father, Jack. While the jury didn't buy it, for Belinda, suddenly everything made sense.
I know what happened. Why would a 19-year-old boy, get up in front of the whole world and say that his father had raped him every day of his life if it's not true? So he can, make a fool of himself and embarrass himself? No 19-year-old boy is going to say that.
He was facing life in prison. His defence team had to come up with something to diminish his responsibility.
No.
Is it possible you've convinced yourself of this because you don't want to accept that he's a psychopath?
No, I don't need to
that
convince
he's a serial
myself.
killer?
No.
I can understand why you want to believe him. He's your brother.
It's not about understanding him to believe him. It happened.
Mark was sent to Supermax, his papers stamped never to be released.
He drove him to do what he did. He's the one that should be in jail, not my brother.
Belinda blamed her father and was set on revenge. Why did you want your father dead?
Why? Because of the damage he'd caused.
So you blamed him for all the monstrous things that Mark did?
Yep. Mark's innocent. Mark's the innocent one. He was the victim, not David O'Hearn, not Frank Arkell, Mark.
Did you ask Keith Schreiber to kill your father?
Yes, I did.
Keith Schreiber was Mark's best friend, captured here with Mark in police surveillance. Belinda was in a sexual relationship with Keith when she enlisted him for a special job. At the time, she was staying with her father at his Albion Park home near Wollongong. Why did you ask Keith to kill your dad?
Because I had a daughter and I didn't want to do it myself for that reason.
In the early hours of August 18, 2000, Keith Schreiber snuck into the Albion Park home through a window that had been left open. On his way, he grabbed an axe which was propped up against the garage door. His plan was to kill Jack Van Crevel as he slept. But the 48-year-old woke up and fought back. In the frenzied attack, he was struck 25 times with the axe and stabbed a further 16 times with a knife before Schreiber carved up the body. In the neighbouring bedroom, Belinda was under the doona with her 4-year-old daughter. The little girl could hear the blows raining down and her grandfather pleading for his life. She said to her mum, "What's happening to Poppy?" Belinda covered her daughter's ears and waited.
He deserved what he got. As far as I was concerned, there was no other way out. I was just happy that Jack wasn't alive anymore.
Is there anything you can tell us about the incident that occurred last night with Mr. Jack Van Crevel?
I've done it.
Within 24 hours, police arrested Schreiber, who quickly buckled, convinced he'd rid the world of a dangerous pedophile.
I told him this is for Mark, pedophile bastard. You'll never molest another kid again.
Keith certainly wasn't saying who prompted him to do it, but I think we all knew who it was.
Belinda gave the order.
Yeah.
Jamie Williams and Belinda Van Crevel.
But when police hauled in Belinda, she played dumb.
Had you ever gone out with Keith, Australia?
No, I never even thought about it.
You ever had any relationships with him? Sexual-wise or any nature like that?
I won't answer that. I don't think that's got anything to do with this.
It's actually got a lot to do with it, because it's investigating the murder of your father.
Yeah, but what's sex got to do with someone being murdered?
We're just trying to...
Did you use that relationship with Keith to manipulate him to commit murder? How can you manipulate someone to kill someone? He did this because he cared for you. On his behalf, it was an act of love. No, I don't think so. Oh, he did that because you told him you wanted Jack dead. Mm-hmm. And you don't feel bad for him? No, not at all. He didn't have to carry out my wishes. He chose to do that.
What were you feeling when you were doing this?
Sort of loneliness. I was feeling lonely.
Keith Schreiber was sentenced to 16 years jail. Belinda copped 6 years for soliciting the murder of her father.
You lost your daughter, your freedom. Was it worth it? Yes. You say that resolutely, without a doubt. Without a doubt, it was worth it. It was worth it because he deserved what he got. Your father deserved to die. Yep.
Welcome back to 60 Minutes. Belinda Van Evil served 6 years for soliciting the murder of her father, Jack. And on her release in 2007, she was determined to start again. You'd think she'd learnt her lesson. But for the woman nicknamed Belinda Van Evil, violence was about to strike again. Walking free, a second chance.
What are you planning to do? I just want to get on with my life.
And soon after, Belinda Van Evil fell in love with carpet salesman Marshall Gould. They had a little boy, and it seemed Belinda could finally be happy. Though not for long.
I just remember her eyes, they just went black. Just went like that. It's just, the colour of her eyes just disappeared. It was like that, it was just black.
In July 2013, fueled by a concoction of alcohol and prescription drugs, Belinda flew into a psychotic state, stabbing Marshall 6 times, almost fatally.
She just started belting straight into me and telling me she wanted to kill me, and I couldn't work out what was going on. And then she ran to the kitchen and she grabbed a knife and she came running out of the kitchen. She said, she just started with, "I'm going to have to kill you, Jack."
Jack.
Jack.
The name of her father.
The name of her father.
When she first felt...
Wayne Gould, Marshall's father, rushed his stabbed and bleeding son to hospital.
In the morning, I get a phone call. "Where's Marshall?" And I said, "Marshall's in hospital." "What's he doing in hospital?"
She had no idea.
No, not at all. I said, "You tried to kill him last night." "I wouldn't do that." "No, I wouldn't." I said, "You did, you stupid bitch. You tried to kill him. You stabbed him about 10 times. Nearly lost his arm." So then she's in tears. She did not remember any of that. She remembered nothing.
Does that scare you that you've got no memory of that? That did, yes, it did. I woke up in the morning and I was just horrified. I didn't know what had happened. I just woke up and I had my son with me and there was blood everywhere.
Her frenzied attack may have shocked Belinda, but it didn't surprise Marshall's father, who was always concerned about the relationship.
I say, "Marshall, you sure you want to be with this woman? Belinda's a lovely girl, but she's cracked. She's that case."
Belinda was sentenced to 2 years for stabbing Marshall.
Hi, good, thank you. How are you? Just one chai latte, warm with 1 sugar. 1 sugar? Yep, thank you. Okay. Thank you.
A few weeks ago, she walked free once more, possibly her last chance. But there is one more evil piece of the Van Evil puzzle for Belinda to learn about. After all she's done in the name of her brother Mark, she doesn't know about the secret scribbled in his most treasured possession.
I've got this to show you. I don't know if you've seen this. This is the book that the police found at Mark's house. Do you want to have a look at it? The A to Z of serial killers.
I'm just glad that you have something of his that I could... It's quite sad.
Have a look down that first column at the names.
There's a lot of names here, yeah? My name?
Your name. Did you know you were on that list?
No, I didn't. Not until now.
Looking at that, he wanted you dead.
This is just him being angry.
So it doesn't bother you that your name's there?
No, of course not.
Because when police contacted the other people on that list, they were terrified. I would think that would be a more honest response.
Yeah, well, they didn't grow up with him. I did. I know him better than anyone else.
Despite his murderous messages, Belinda remains fiercely loyal to her beloved brother and hopes the Van Creville demons are finally fading behind her. Detective Russell Oxford hopes she's right.
Have you ever met a family like them?
No. I've never worked on a case where there's had so many tentacles to it from the one origin. This is a horror story that's just kept unfolding and unfolding. I hope the chapter's closed, the book's closed now.
So what's important in life now for you?
To get on with life, move on. Let the past go.
Do you think you've dealt with it? What you've gone through?
not completely, no. It'll take a long time.
Can people feel safe with you out in the community again?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
Why?
Why not? Why not? Of course they can.
Welcome back. To the police, she's a cold-blooded killer. To her supporters, the victim of justice denied. Susan Neil Fraser is serving 23 years in a Hobart prison for the murder of her partner. And at first, it might seem like the perfect crime. You see, there's no body, no weapon, and no direct witnesses. And for Susan's friends and family, that's exactly the point. There was never any hard evidence to convict her. Legal experts are even likening her plight to the Lindy Chamberlain case. It's the perfect murder mystery. It was a deed remindful of Hobart's dark and bloody convict past. A murder mystery involving a missing high-profile physicist, a cast of shady characters, and a luxury yacht. A sinister tale that challenges the very foundations of criminal justice as we think we know it.
I think this case sets a precedent for Australia that is very dangerous.
The precedent being?
That you can convict without a body and without substantial evidence.
I have no doubt at all that Susan Fraser killed Bob Chappell.
No doubt at all?
Not at all.
When the guilty verdict was handed down, I was in shock and disbelief. It was unbelievably painful. And she was led away to prison.
Australia Day 2009, and out on Hobart's Derwent River, Bob Chappell is working on his moored yacht, the Four Winds. The 65-year-old plans to spend the night on board alone. But the next day finds the boat half submerged.
Bob inexplicably gone and no murder weapon or body ever found, nor any reliable witnesses.
Mr. Chappell remains missing despite extensive police searches.
Then, after 7 months, police suddenly announce an astonishing breakthrough: the arrest of Bob's partner of 18 years, Susan Neil Fraser.
Police yesterday charged Susan Neil Fraser with the murder of her partner, Bob Chappell.
I could never have imagined at the time that things would have gone the way they had, and yeah, it was very hard. It's been a very tough road.
Susan's daughter Sarah has been her most tireless campaigner, the main link to the world beyond the prison walls.
It's so overwhelming, I can't take it seriously.
This is the first time Susan's voice has been heard by anyone but her closest supporters.
I haven't done anything. I've never ever threatened anybody or harmed anyone. And I can't see any real situation where I ever would.
Sarah's phone calls to her 59-year-old mother are frustratingly short.
Your Pavlova was very missed at our Christmas, everyone.
Inevitably returning to her claim of innocence and so reliving the terrible events of Australia Day 4 years ago.
It's dreadful, and you keep wondering what happened. I think it's a day when I certainly wonder, you know.
Mum, all through the trial and the appeals, Mum said, well, I can't be convicted because I'm innocent. You know, how can you be convicted in this, you know, highly evolved justice system if you didn't commit a crime? Well, you can, and she has been.
The case for the prosecution was simple, almost deceptively so, that sometime on Australia Day, we don't know when, could have been the afternoon, could have been the evening, Susan Neil Fraser gains access to the Four Winds and goes down below. Down here, Susan finds Bob at work. Perhaps he doesn't see her, or if he does, he doesn't look up from his work. The prosecutor says that she strikes him twice on the head with a wrench. Blood is spattered around the place. And then she somehow manages to manhandle the body using the winches up 2 flights of stairs, 2 companionways, onto the deck, where she weighs the body down with a fire extinguisher, tosses it into the Derwent River, never to be seen again. Now, it is a largely imagined scenario, but it's good enough to put a woman away for 23 years.
I've been working on it for nearly 4 years, and each week there is something new. And I go, I can't believe this. Then there's the drug theory.
A drug theory?
That the boat was used to bring drugs down from Queensland.
Susan Neil Fraser's case may have been all but closed and forgotten.
There's the family possibility.
If not for the intervention of psychologist and documentary producer Eve Ash.
There's the homeless men who were in the area and have the means.
Eve is a Miss Marple with a video camera.
That's a good question. Where is Bob?
I think he is probably no longer alive.
Piece by piece, Eve has assembled the jigsaw of events, leads and counter-leads around Bob's disappearance.
I've spent a lot of time chipping away at every little thing, and I've found enough chinks that I think she needs a retrial.
And to help try and crack this code, Eve's teamed up with a finely honed forensic mind.
We want the truth. We want to know what happened because our system requires proof beyond reasonable doubt.
Morning, can I help you?
Yes, Barbara Etta to see Sue Neil Fraser, please.
Lawyer Barbara Etta is a former West Australian Assistant Police Commissioner and ex-head of the Tasmanian Integrity Commission. More recently, she's a regular visitor to Hobart's Risdon Jail, where Susan Neil Fraser is incarcerated.
The Sue Neil Fraser case was an entirely circumstantial case in that there's no body, no weapon, no eyewitnesses, and no manner or cause of death. Now this is the court transcript. And this
in equal measure, intrigued and outraged by this case, together Barbara and Eve are determined to clear Susan's name.
Like, I just keep going back to the photos and thinking...
As a lawyer, my paramount or overriding duty is to the court, and it's incumbent upon me, if I believe there's been a miscarriage of justice, to get it back to the courts so that they can rectify any mistake. And that's what I'm proposing and hoping to do.
It's important to all of us so we get this right, isn't it?
Oh, it's critical for ongoing public confidence in the justice system.
What's especially intriguing in all of this is the amount of supposed evidence in the prosecution case, which is at best questionable and at worst simply non-existent. As you'll see, there's a case of the dubious DNA, there's the red herring of a rubber glove, and then there's the theoretical wrench, imagined by the prosecution to be the murder weapon, though none was ever found, yet the wrench gets mentioned 8 times by the judge in his summing up, and that will be the last thing that the jury hears before they have to make up their mind.
I think it was a great visualisation for the jury to imagine her coming up behind and hitting with the wrench, but there's no evidence.
Now, if you follow the case in the papers or on television, you think there's a wrench, but there isn't.
There's no body with a wrench mark.
An imagined wrench. On board the Four Winds, it's not just the wrench that has Eve Ash confounded. There was also further misleading evidence in court. A rubber glove supposedly used by Susan Neal-Fraser to clean up the murder scene and alleged, falsely, to contain her DNA.
The jury think, yeah, she cleaned up after herself with latex gloves. It's not even her DNA, it's someone else's DNA.
At least 2 pieces of DNA from persons unknown were found on board, while a third is even more confounding. That of a homeless girl who swears she's never been on the boat, but gave a false alibi as to her whereabouts on that fateful night.
The young homeless girl had refused to be interviewed by police, and it became apparent during the court hearing that she had no alibi for the evening in question. She gave conflicting evidence about where she was, and if there's been a miscarriage of justice, it's certainly abhorrent to think that a person would be in jail for something that they may not have done.
Well, may you wonder how this case ever got to court, let alone sent a woman to jail virtually for life. But there are many holes in Susan Neal-Fraser's own story. Welcome back to 60 Minutes and the extraordinary case of Susan Neal-Fraser. She's serving 23 years in a Hobart jail for the murder of her partner, Bob Chappell, a crime she's consistently denied. Certainly there were flaws in the prosecution case, but as you'll see, Susan Neal-Fraser's own account doesn't always stack up. This is your wedding in happier family times.
Yeah.
Where's Bob?
Bob here and Mum there. And
4 years after her stepfather Bob Chappell mysteriously disappeared, Sarah Bowles is still trying to come to terms with that loss, as well as the imprisonment of her mother, Susan Neal-Fraser, for his murder.
I think you develop a resilience to the situation, but I think the hardest part is when you walk out and she's not allowed to come as well, and it really hits home.
This ordeal has split the family. Each set of kids from Susan's and Bob's previous marriages no longer speak to one another. And keeping its secrets, the Four Winds, the dream yacht on which Bob was spending the night on Hobart's Derwent River when he vanished. All the while, Susan Neal-Fraser has steadfastly maintained her innocence, though not always her mental strength.
Having never been on antidepressants before in my life and going, you remember, Sarah, I went on them just after Bob disappeared. Well, I just stopped them a week or two before Christmas. And I feel what's been done to me is just so overwhelming that I can't get my head around it really yet.
But for all Susan Neal-Fraser's protestations, the police found her to be an unreliable, even misleading witness, especially concerning her memories of what happened on that fateful night. She'd actually been down here on the foreshore, not 300 metres from the boat, and yet later, for some reason, she denies this to the police. She lies.
When you put all the circumstances together, not just the lies, but all the circumstances together, I don't have any doubt that Sue was guilty of killing Bob Chappell.
Inspector Peter Powell, who led the investigation, is an old-fashioned copper's copper and highly regarded.
Is there such a thing as an old copper's nose?
Oh, of course there is, yeah.
When did your nose start twitching?
I guess when we started finding out that she had lied to us from the first morning about her movements, and eventually, of course, to find out that she had actually driven down to the area of the yacht that night, which was totally contrary to what she had told us.
That lie relates to another bizarre element in this extraordinary case. Bob's daughter from his previous marriage, who battles mental illness, had sent a menacing prediction to Susan the night of Bob's disappearance.
She'd had a very strange phone call 10 o'clock at night saying something bad was going to happen to Bob, that Bob's daughter felt that something bad might happen to the boat.
She'd had a warning.
Exactly. She was unnerved and she said she went down there just to make sure everything was all right, but she did go down there, and at first she said she stayed home that night.
In fact, police say Susan Neal-Fraser told them a string of lies. When they found her red jacket down on the waterfront, she initially denied it was hers. And there was the alibi that Susan was shopping at Bunnings in the evening of Bob's disappearance, even though that shop had shut early for the night.
When I first spoke to Sue, I got the impression that butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. As I got to know her further down the track and find out other things that she was saying, I think Sue's a very manipulative individual, and I think she's quite capable of convincing other people of her version of events.
That version of events begins to unravel with Susan Neal-Fraser checking her phone messages at 3 a.m. This is the first evidence that she hadn't, as claimed, slept throughout the entire night. The next day, the police become increasingly suspicious about a cut on her hand. And of course, in all of this, she's never been helped by the fact that more than once in the past, she made jokes about tossing Bob overboard. You could say that Susan Neal-Fraser was her own worst enemy.
I can only go on the evidence we had, but I guess only a few weeks into the investigation, those morning briefings always came back to, but then why has she done this, and why has she told these lies, and why has she invented this?
Then, in court, she didn't display the distress that might have been expected of her, a perception compounded by the witness accounts that her relationship with Bob was on the rocks, a claim she strongly denied.
Do you think she seemed emotionally cold?
You've got a lady that the day after Bob had gone missing, according to her computer records, looked up to see when she could have him declared dead, what the legal position was, and I find that a bit strange.
This is hard for anybody to understand.
Especially when they don't have the background information.
A lot of people liken this to the attitude towards Lindy Chamberlain at the beginning of that case.
I think there's a clear parallel in that Sue was judged wrongly, I think, by the perception of her demeanour and personality.
Cold and haughty and not looking particularly affected by the loss of the husband.
Stoic, doesn't show her emotions, which in a case like this, in the eyes of the public, works against you.
Not only did the jury find Sue guilty, but she's gone to the criminal court and the High Court and still hasn't been able to get the conviction overturned.
So this is one that you won't, in your towards dawn sleep, roll over and wonder if you got it right about?
Not at all. Not at all.
Susan Neal-Fraser's fate rests on the shoulders of three women: the lawyer, the filmmaker, and her daughter Sarah. All of them determined not just to clear Susan's name, but to solve the mystery. What actually happened to Bob Chappell that Australia Day night on the Derwent River?
We still don't have a body, we still don't know a time of death, you know. This is the thing, the police, they may have a conviction on the case, but they haven't solved the crime, and that's what we want.
23 years is a long time, and without remorse, there can be no parole.
That's right, and she won't admit guilt because she hasn't done it, so yeah, we're looking at 23 years.
You live in hope.
Very much so. It's all we have.
Welcome back to 60 Minutes. Susan Neal-Fraser is tonight behind bars. A mother, a grandmother, convicted of murdering her partner, Bob Chappell. Convicted by a jury of her peers, sentenced to 23 years. But there's one problem. Susan Neal-Fraser is innocent. That's the unqualified conclusion by some of the finest legal and police minds in the country, including one of our foremost experts in miscarriages of justice. I first looked at a case a year ago and was convinced there was enough reasonable doubt to acquit her at trial. Now the case to set her free is even stronger, if not undeniable, thanks to the new and compelling forensic evidence. For the past 5 years, Susan Neal-Fraser's been languishing in Hobart's Risdon jail, convicted of murdering her partner, Bob Chappell. A charge she's always denied.
But it floated higher.
Back at home, her daughter Sarah Bowles, herself now a mother, is still coming to terms with what happened.
Yeah, it's like Isaac. Meow. And it's always bittersweet, you know, because you know, it's beautiful to see Mum playing with Elizabeth and interacting and having that really special time together, but because it's so short, it's so sad to see and it makes me so angry, but you can't do anything about it.
Our interview is interrupted.
Oh, it's Mum. Is that news?
It's Sarah's mum. The 1 10-minute call per day that she's allowed.
I'm just doing an interview at the moment.
And today, Susan Neal-Fraser is struggling.
Well, I feel fairly hopeless at the moment, Sarah. I think that we just have to keep plugging away and try to raise the Attorney-General's awareness that there has been a serious miscarriage of justice.
If this was a work of fiction, this would be a great discussion to continue with. But to actually think that we're discussing a trial process in which somebody's being convicted of murder is quite shocking in my view.
In the hundreds of cases that you've looked at, how bad is this one?
This is the worst of the worst.
Tonight, the new forensic evidence that rips apart the police case and shows that Sue Neal-Fraser should be set free.
We're seeing the same error that was made in Lindy Chamberlain over 30 years ago.
The blood that was never there.
There's no blood in the dinghy at all.
Blood, not a drop.
I saw a boat out there.
The confused eyewitness.
Would you say it was there or would you say it was there?
I couldn't be sure.
And the possible suspect whom police completely ignored.
And the fact that you have a person at a crime scene, a potential murder scene, when they say they weren't there, changed the whole complexion of the case.
Bob Chappell and Sue Neal-Fraser had been partners for 18 years, by most accounts, happily living in Hobart. They'd spent much of Australia Day 2009 on the Derwent River aboard their dream yacht, the Four Winds. Bob decided to stay on board alone overnight, which wasn't unusual. Susan went ashore in their inflatable white dinghy at around 2 that afternoon. By the next morning, the yacht is discovered half submerged and Bob is missing, presumed murdered.
I mean, even at a personal level, you know, Mum must have been going through so much more intense sort of emotions than I was, but even me, you know, Bob missing, presumed dead, being a part of a murder, I mean, that stuff, you know, like, we've never been involved in anything like this.
Police yesterday charged Susan Neal-Fraser with the murder of her partner, Bob Chappell.
7 months after Bob's disappearance, Susan Neal-Fraser would be charged with his murder. It is true that she seriously weakened her defence by initially lying to police about her movements that night. And in the court of public opinion, she wasn't seen to play the role of a distraught widow. But as we discovered last year, the prosecution case was big on imagination.
There's no body, there's no murder weapon, there are no injuries to be interpreted, and yet the prosecutor put all those things together and told the jury that this man had been struck on the head and killed with a single blow.
Dr. Bob Moles is Australia's leading expert on miscarriages of justice. Of the hundreds of cases he's reviewed, Bob ranks Susan's among the worst injustices in Australian criminal history. The prosecution case lacking in logic.
According to the prosecutor, she's killed him or laid him out, and now she has to manipulate the body up there.
She's not a strong woman.
But then once it's actually up on the deck there, she's then got to manoeuvre it over the side into the dinghy, which is quite a way down below.
The Four Winds dinghy, supposedly drenched with Bob Chappell's blood, is the first of several pieces of evidence now shown to be dubious.
An independent expert has shown there is no confirmed blood from Bob Chappell in that dinghy.
Barbara Etta is a lawyer and former high-ranking police officer. She was Western Australia's Assistant Police Commissioner. Barbara is bringing her considerable legal and policing experience to the task of freeing Sue Neal-Fraser.
The court was shown, I think, a highly prejudicial photo of the Four Winds dinghy, glowing bright blue, and being told that there was blood, that Bob Chappell's blood was in that dinghy.
But this independent report by Australia's leading expert on bloodstain analysis proves that the blue, luridly glowing substance is in fact not blood. It's a chemical reaction from the testing agent called luminol.
The luminol is a presumptive sort of screening test, but the point is that a screening test actually doesn't identify the existence of blood. What it does do is identify a whole range of possible substances that could give a positive result. And these include bleach, paints, metals, vegetables will give a positive result. And sometimes it'll give a positive result just because you've sprayed too much luminol.
Even Sue's daughter Sarah was convinced in court.
I thought, oh my God, there's been a bloodbath in the dinghy. He's been slaughtered.
But you weren't questioning that it was blood.
I wasn't. I went along the lines of thinking, oh, there's blood all through the dinghy because that's what it was made out to be.
The judge made it perfectly clear to the jury in his summing up that we could exclude the fact that Mr. Chappell had disappeared because of the presence of blood that was found in the dinghy and on the yacht.
So a large part of the state case has vanished?
Absolutely. Fundamentally misinformed, and she's entitled to have her conviction set aside.
This false blood test is just the first of many holes in the prosecution case.
Well, once I rung in and said, look, I think I saw the boat, but I'm not sure.
Peter Lorraine was a star witness for the prosecution. He was walking along the foreshore late that Australia Day afternoon and believes he saw Bob Chappell working on the deck of the Four Winds just before 5 o'clock.
All I can say is I saw a boat out there with an elderly man on it, and the boat looked like the boat that was described as the gentleman's boat, and there wasn't any boat
In terms
traffic.
of the boats we're looking at now, which one would have been close to where the Four Winds was at the time?
I would say it would be between that motorboat and that sailing boat.
Between the nearest sailing boat and the motorboat.
Yeah.
Peter points directly out in front. Consistent with his statements and evidence in court. But in fact, the Four Winds wasn't moored where Peter thought. It was 45 degrees to the right and 320 metres off the jetty, much further out. To test Peter's account, we placed this white yacht with a black canopy on the Four Winds mooring.
I guess all I can say is I saw a boat and I saw a person on it, and it looked like Mr. Chappell from...
Do you agree, though, there's a big difference there, isn't it? If the Four Winds was actually there and the boat you saw was there, then it's not one and the same boat, is it?
No, but I'm not... as I say, I can't be completely clear, so I couldn't identify Mr. Chappell personally. All I could say was there's, an elderly figure on the boat.
That afternoon, at the same time Peter thought he saw Bob alive, several other witnesses saw things very differently.
I'm looking at the boats that were the furthest out, and one in particular caught my eye because...
Jill Aiken was also looking out on the Derwent River and noticed the Four Winds. She saw no sign of Bob, but did notice a dinghy attached to the yacht, despite the fact that Susan Neal-Fraser had gone ashore in their inflatable white dinghy approximately 3 hours earlier.
As the boat swung around slightly, I could see that there was a dinghy tethered to the starboard side, which was an aluminium dinghy.
So not the dinghy that goes with the boat? Not an inflatable?
Not an inflatable.
Jill was actually one of 4 witnesses who saw a grey dinghy attached to the side of the Four Winds late that afternoon. They all said that it wasn't Bob and Sue's white inflatable. The mystery is, why didn't the police follow up on this dinghy? Who owned it and what was it doing here? Perhaps it didn't suit their case.
The police did come to see me, and I showed the gentleman where it was. And the policeman confirmed that where I was looking was where the Four Winds had been.
Yeah.
The sighting of the grey aluminium dinghy becomes crucially important. If Peter was looking at the wrong boat, who's to say Bob wasn't killed earlier by whoever came aboard from that dinghy?
So the grey dinghy and the people associated with that grey dinghy could well be the murderers and the people who sabotaged the Four Winds.
Welcome back to 60 Minutes and the compelling case to free Susan Neal-Fraser. The 60-year-old mother of 2 is serving a 23-year sentence for the murder of her partner Bob Chappell. But legal experts are convinced it is one of Australia's most serious miscarriages of justice. Sue Neal-Fraser is behind bars, largely because the prosecution successfully argued she was the only possible suspect. We now know that's not true.
The fact of the matter is the case was carefully tailored to fit a particular outcome and a preferred scenario, and it didn't take into account all the other factors and didn't comply with the relevant legal rules about how a trial should be conducted.
In the days after Bob Chappell went missing, mystery DNA was found on the deck of the Four Winds. It would eventually be matched to a then 16-year-old homeless girl, Megan Vass. In court, she denied ever being on the Four Winds, and the prosecution said her DNA must have got on board by what's called secondary transfer.
At the trial, they said it could have been brought in on the boot of some copper or something of that sort by having trodden on it somewhere else.
But that's wrong, according to the highly respected Victoria Police Forensic Services Department, which concludes...
There is no evidence to support the hypothesis that the DNA detected was the result of a secondary transfer event caused through foot traffic on the deck of Four Winds.
It had to be what they call a primary deposit, which means that it must be either blood, bodily fluids or saliva, something of that sort, which was deposited by the person themselves as they got onto the boat. So it means that Megan Vass can now be said to have been on the boat at that point.
Yeah, and even if it didn't say that that girl particularly did it, it does say that the forensic process was flawed.
Yep, you don't have to establish that Sue Neal-Fraser is innocent. You don't have to establish that Megan Vass is guilty of anything. You just have to show that the case that was put to the jury was incorrect, and that would be in itself sufficient to warrant a retrial.
And Megan Vass wasn't the only homeless person in the vicinity that night who would be dismissed by police.
The court, during Sue Neal-Fraser's trial, was led to believe that there was no evidence of homeless people on the foreshore that night, that they had been accounted for, which is not the case. We can prove that that was not the case. The police records indicate that that is not the case.
There were 3 itinerant men on the foreshore that night. One of them stands out, violent criminal Paul Rowe.
Mr Rowe was referred to as a hitman and a person who had multiple identities.
Paul Rowe has a 9-page criminal history, including time served in New South Wales for malicious wounding. In 2007, he moved to Tasmania, living on this yacht. It was moored just a few hundred metres from the Four Winds on the day Bob Chappell disappeared.
But from a police point of view, you actually have a person who is a past history of violence and criminal activity, and in the vicinity of a purported crime. You'd obviously conduct a careful inquiry at the time, wouldn't you?
It wasn't until 3 years after Bob Chappell's disappearance and more than a year after Sue Neal-Fraser's conviction that police finally interviewed Paul Rowe. Shortly afterwards, he sold his yacht and left Tasmania.
It's another example of failing to follow up on key leads because they already had Mum in their sights. They had a theory, they wanted to secure an arrest and a conviction.
You would argue they're looking for a conviction and not necessarily to solve a crime.
Absolutely, because, you know, I even had one of the detectives say this was a career case for him. This was about, you know, people's careers, it's about statistics, it's about getting a result.
What Susan Neal-Fraser's supporters think really happened out there in the Four Winds was a break-in gone wrong. Bob was alone on the boat with no dinghy attached. Now that's usually a sign that there's no one there. Break-ins are extremely common around here, and those who know Bob say that if someone had trespassed on his boat, he would have reacted angrily.
There could have been Megan Vass, for example. There could have been homeless people. There could have been people on the grey dinghy. There could have been all sorts of people who may have been involved and cannot be satisfactorily excluded. But we have to exclude them if we're going to have Sue Neal-Fraser convicted of murder.
Megan Vass and Paul Rowe might well be innocent, but what's beyond doubt is this. They were not thoroughly investigated because police only had eyes for Susan Neal-Fraser.
You know, whatever happened to him, whether he...
For Susan, calling in from prison, the break-in gone wrong theory is the most likely.
From the evidence we now have, the new evidence, I think that it wasn't murder at all. I mean, nobody would harm Bob, and so one has to think of perhaps a burglary, and they wouldn't have even thought Bob was aboard, probably.
How did this happen to us? Bob missing, dead, Mum wrongfully convicted of his murder.
But the cards are still stacked against Susan Neal-Fraser. In Tasmania, as with most of Australia, new evidence is not admissible on appeal.
I'd like to share with you one of my fondest memories of Bob and Mum.
For Sarah, this is about more than just her mother's fate. It calls into question the justice system itself.
Thank you all for coming.
It's really shattered my faith in a system that's held up to be, you know, about truth and justice, and unless we're prepared to recognise and address those faults, then they just keep happening to other people.